On this episode of This is Game Boy, we debunk the fable of the tortoise and the hare, because tortoises don't even have hair. Hello everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of This is a Game Boy. On today's episode we will be diving into the Turtles games on Game Boy. Well, actually just one of them. We are gonna definitely do all three of them, but we're just gonna keep it with the first one so far. And we have like two announcements, I guess. Like the first thing is today we are joined by Manovermars, which you might know from his podcast that he doesn't do anymore, Pixelated Audio. But you might also, of course, know him from just Twitch, because literally everybody has an emote made by him.
Pretty much.
At this point.
Pretty much.
And then most people just know him as Mom now,
Yeah.
as an abbreviation.
Yep.
But yeah, of course, we're joined by him and joined by my co-host, Baltic. Yeah, and the second announcement is, and we didn't realize this before, we kind of just figured it out by looking at the calendar, but when this comes out, we've actually been doing this for 2 years now, so this is basically our anniversary episode.
Nice, congrats. I'm happy to be on your guys' anniversary date.
Yeah, we wanted to plan something special, but what would we even do? And now it just came to be to this.
I asked,
yes, it's
I asked him, I was like, what are we going to do for our 2-year anniversary? Last year we did Darkwing Duck. He's like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, well, when's this Turtles episode coming? I was like, I don't know, June, May. I'm like, oh, that's when we started the podcast. He's like, well, I guess that starts 2-year anniversary episode. Yeah. And I was like, all right.
Nice. Well, either way, I'm honored to be on the anniversary episode.
We're happy to have you.
Yeah, as I mentioned before on previous episodes, like the reason why we definitely invited you to talk about the Turtles games is specifically actually for the amazing soundtrack that this game offers. We'll dive into that, of course, when we come across the game itself. But as you did a podcast about video game music, I think this is just the perfect one to pull you in for, and I know you love these games as well, or at least the soundtrack of them.
Oh yeah.
So,
well, I was a huge Turtles fan as a kid, so and this game in particular is pretty fun. So I like it.
Yeah, that's why this was perfect to do. Initially we wanted to do all three of them in one go, but that episode would take like 7 hours, so we were like, probably best not to do that and just split it up as good as we can. So
well, and you get to take your time and put them out one at a time and not rush through it. So you got Turtles for next year as well.
And Lakes can have a life and enjoy her freedom. And
yeah, because we have been giving her some very long episodes lately. She's glad that she's doing at this moment my light that comes out before this, and before Top Gun? Yeah, before Top Gun. And it's only 40 minutes, so she can take a little break there for once.
Nice.
But yeah, like always, before we start diving into the game, what have you been up to, Baltic?
Final Fantasy Remake. You saw my frustration with it last night.
I've seen some of your posts on Twitter about it.
God, what a game. Just finished Retrothon, so I started up Game Boy Block, I don't know, last weekend or whatever it was.
Sunday, yeah.
And then, Sunday. And then did KDL Extra Mode, which I was very happy with that run, 12:30 something. Kid Nicky, which went a little bit better than expected. And then Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was underestimate, and that was the first underestimate run I had the entire week, so... all in all, it went great. Game Boy Block was sweet.
Yeah.
It ended with all 5 Mega Man Game Boys, so that was actually really cool to watch. Mannix was a beast.
Yeah.
And was 10
Mannix actually just bopped me in Mega Man Dr. Wild's Revenge, so I might have to come back to try to get top 5 again.
He was 10 seconds off the world record in Mega Man 5.
Yeah, and all because of one
That's crazy.
Mishap with a stage select. Otherwise, he would have gotten it.
Yeah, insane, an absolute beast. Outside of that, I started rewatching all the Shin-Chan episodes because we're on lockdowns. So I have nothing else there to do. I finished all 23 seasons of South Park. I'm like halfway through all of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'm through season 1 of Shin-Chan already. I've listened to the entire discography of 30 Seconds to Mars, Iron Maiden, AC/DC, and Avenged Sevenfold. It's just, the lockdown's just driving me insane. Like, I just doing things I don't typically just do. So, but outside of that, once Final Fantasy VII's done, I'll be diving into, I think, Red Dead Revolver next. So hopefully I can enjoy a game again.
Nice.
What about you, Manovermars?
Well, I mean, living that dad life, so that's that takes up a good portion of my days and nights. But other than that, it's been a lot of art. People, I think, in the lockdown have been taking a look at their Twitch channels and stuff like that, seeing where they can improve things. So I've been slammed with emotes and things like that. And, as far as game-wise, just chipping away at beating some Game Boy games. And I've really fallen in love with DayZ, so I've been playing a lot of DayZ as well.
God, I used to love DayZ. I used to pour so many hours into DayZ mod for Arma 2. Oh, my God.
Nice. Yeah, I'm just like totally addicted. I was playing this morning actually. I wake up now at like 4:30 in the morning to do art or stream or something, stuff like that. So today I just woke up to play DayZ with a few friends and didn't even stream or anything like that. I just wanted to play. There's
a YouTube series of me and some friends playing DayZ together, and we got in this this epic chase on the airfield on an Epoch server. And it ended with us like making it through like a little bit of trees where like we just should not have made it at all because we drive like idiots. And it ended up with them hitting a tree and blowing up, so we just went and looted them. Oh, it's so good. Airfield, man. Airfield's where it's at. Airfield and Electro.
Yeah.
Mo's probably like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I have no idea. Yeah, I know the game, of course. But, like, I'm totally not into any multiplayer game at all, to be perfectly honest, and definitely not one of those survival game. What are they called actually? That's not a battle royale one, really.
No, it's not a battle because when you die, you lose everything. So and you just keep respawning. There's no like who wins. So it's just like survival. So
that's definitely nothing
that
I would enjoy at all, to be honest.
I don't play much for BRs. I've tried a couple. I just don't like them. Like I used to play PUBG. I've won a couple PUBG rounds. Cool. I used to play Fortnite for a little bit. I think I played like 4 rounds of Fortnite. Won 1 or 2. And I was like, all right, well, I'm done with this. Like I just don't find them fun.
Yeah.
What about you, Mo?
Yeah, so I finished up the main storyline of Final Fantasy Remake, so all I'm doing is clean up basically by getting through hard mode and the random trophies, but I'm not like doing it constantly because, it's boring to do that. I do like Final Fantasy VII Remake, but getting trophies and things like that, I don't know. I'm not super enjoying that part of it. It does make the game a little bit more fun and strategical for sure, but I've seen it. I've been through the game. I kind of wish it didn't have trophies at this point. Because, I don't know, one thing I'm not very fond of with trophy hunting is the hard mode playthroughs. Like, I don't always want to do those because there's usually 1 or 2 things about them that just get me mad and then I don't want to play it anymore. But I do have some other games to play, of course. Like yesterday, Trials of Mana came out. And I say mana, and I know every character in the game says mana, which I absolutely hate. But I know people say either mana or mana.
I'm like that with the Mako thing. Like when I heard them say Mako, I was like, no, it's Mako. Like don't even try to
Mako
change my mind.
Yeah, see, so, but it's just funny because I think I should have. I played it on stream for like a first impression session to see if other people might be interested in playing it or something. And I should have put up a counter how many times they say mana during the 5 hours that I played it. It just keeps going like 3 times in one sentence or something. It's
Nano machines.
yeah, like that for example. Yeah, and the voice acting in the game is horrible. Like it's C level voice actors. I'm sorry, I know you people are also doing your job. But Jesus, that's some bad.
So it's just like Final Fantasy VII Remake. Perfect.
That one is like 300 times better than Trials of Mana. But yeah, besides that really great game, I never played the original. I do have the collection, which I bought to play the original, and I never did. So I'm playing the remake now. It has fantastic music. It has great graphics. It's fun to play. It's easy to play. I'm playing on normal mode. There is a hard mode, but... Get out of here, hard mode. I actually bought the Switch version just so I didn't have to worry about trophies at all. I can just play the game and enjoy it. No.
Nice. If they're not there, you don't have to worry
Indeed.
about them.
So I'm actually enjoying this game. I'm like 10 hours in. I finally got to a boss fight that was actually very hard compared to the very first few of the game, which were laughably easy, to be honest. But I can highly recommend this game. It's a one-on-one remake of the original, so there's no added content or things like that in it. Besides one quote-unquote side quest, I think. They just overhauled the battle system to make it a little bit more action-y compared to the original. But besides that, the story remains the same. And the areas remain the same. So if you played the original, you know where to go. And it's a very lenient game towards newcomers to the RPG genre as well, because it literally shows you where you have to go. So you can't get lost
nice.
or anything.
Yeah. I played Secrets of Mana 1 on Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
so.
that one is quite confusing if you don't know where to go, indeed. Besides that, I have been playing some Game Boy games. I finished up Harvest Moon Game Boy, which is the most boring game I've ever played in my life. I would not recommend this to anybody. Played Amazing Tater, which is one of the most expensive games on Game Boy, and it's the sequel to Quirk. I think it uses some of the same puzzles, but I'm not sure. I haven't encountered any.
Oh, I didn't know it was a sequel to Quirk.
Yeah, it's this one.
Puzzle Kid 2.
Puzzle Kid. Oh, it's called that in Japan, then I guess.
Japan.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. But Amazing Tater is very hard to find. It's a very expensive game, so
Very expensive.
yeah, better get the Japanese version then, because it's just a puzzle game. You don't need to read.
Japanese version's expensive too.
Oh, well, there you go. So don't get any version then.
At least it was the last time I looked.
Okay, yeah, that's.
Well, you can just watch Mo's playthrough of
Or you
Amazing
can do
Tater
that, yeah,
and enjoy it.
Took me, I don't remember. 5 hours?
I think it took me 2.5.
Yeah. Wait, no. 3 hours? I don't remember. It was pretty fast.
That's not too bad for
Yeah,
a
it
puzzle
was 2
game.
streams. It's only 40 stages, so
Yeah, it's not very long.
it's fine.
Yeah, both of those are on my list to play at some point. But I'm a baby compared to you guys. I started mine over. I was in like the 40s or 50s, and so now I'm at like 8.
I haven't played the only time I play Game Boy games is for the podcast now, and I don't even put them in my playlist or stream them anymore, because half the games we pick now I've already played.
Yeah,
So
no.
I just go back and watch my playthrough.
Yeah, I'm doing well with the progression. I'm at 385 or 86 right now, so getting close.
think
to
I'm at-
400.
I think I'm at 230. So
But yeah, we're getting.
Yeah, and I'm at 8.
Well, I've been doing it for 4 years almost, so it makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. I also play.
Well, I just kind of turned my focus this year towards so pretty much for gaming for me, it's just DayZ and Game Boy. So no NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, all that stuff was just getting in the way before. So now it's just
64.
Game Boy and DayZ.
Yeah, and you know which
Same
good ones to
console.
pick by looking at our lists.
Yeah, I can talk to you guys and say, was this game any good? And you're like, no, don't play that game.
Yeah, then you
Okay,
don't have to.
I might still want to play it though.
That's the good thing about this.
Unless you play Top Gun, then you're gonna get 2 different answers.
No. Still have to beat that game. Unbelievable. But yeah, I also played Burger Time Deluxe, which is not a port of the arcade game.
Fun game.
Yeah, it's a fun game. 24 stages. Increasing difficulty for sure. Got stuck in the final world, I think, for 3 hours or something. But I made it through it, so
Good.
very
Nice.
fun game. I liked it a lot. Besides that, I also have been just watching like TV wherever I can. Think I talked about this before, but I finished Dragon Ball Super, including the movie. It's okay.
you watched Broly?
It's okay, but the last 30 episodes of the series are really good. Actually, I really enjoyed those. The fights were amazing.
Wasn't the animation kind of bad?
In some
or the art not
episodes,
very
they
good or something?
overblew, whatever. They were tearing it apart a little bit during the start of the series, because at that point Japanese animation studios kind of were in a drought, so they hired new animators and they did not really know what to do, so there are some scenes that look absolutely horrible, but they fixed those in the Blu-ray releases of the series, so at least they do that.
That's nice.
But I read up on it on Dragon Ball Super. It's not super loved, but it's okay. But it's definitely made for a very young audience, because there's not that much blood in it, as far as blood went with Dragon Ball to begin with. But you can clearly see it's made for people with a short attention span, instead of people like us who had to sit through 10 episodes for something to happen. Like in this series, everything happens at once, and it's actually really hard to follow at some points.
Wow. Yeah, because I remember in the old, Dragon Ball Z and stuff, you'd watch like 4 episodes of them like charging and yelling at each other, and then you'd finally get a battle, and then it'd be like,
Here's the
Goku
comparison.
spends 10 episodes of a spirit bomb.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. Like when Goku battles Frieza the very first time, it takes him like 7 episodes to form that spirit bomb. In Dragon Ball Super, it took literally 20 seconds. And
That's because he's super now.
yeah, because he's super. Yeah. But yeah, the thing about the series is there are a lot of characters in it. All of them are very uninteresting, which is the downfall of this series. But the final few battles of it are actually worth it. They were really good. And the movie, the Broly movie, was okay, in my opinion. It wasn't that great.
So good.
But now Broly is canon, though, so that's at least something.
Yeah.
And yesterday I started again, because I never finished it the first 2 times. I started Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. So yeah, I'll see how that goes. I've seen half of it, but it's been years.
It took me 3 tries to finish that anime.
Yeah.
I couldn't get into Brotherhood. I love the original Full Metal Alchemist and the movie. Brotherhood was real hard for me to get into.
I think the problem with Brotherhood is that it starts in the middle of the story.
Yep.
And the thing is, Brotherhood is actually completely based on the manga, whereas the original series was kind of altered here and there. But the original one follows it chronologically most of the time. Like, there's some flashbacks, but not that many. But, like, Brotherhood, the first episode, you're like, what is this? What is even happening here? You have no idea what's going on, and I think people might have not liked that a lot.
One of my biggest issues with Brotherhood is I forgot the main character's name now, but Arthur, Alfred, whatever his name is.
Wait, Alphonse is the brother. Edward. Alright.
Edward. Yeah, I knew it was some basic name. Where he can just like walk to a wall, draw a quick circle, and like 0.5 seconds, put his hand on it, and all of a sudden he has like a typhoon coming out of nowhere, and it's like, in like the original Brotherhood, he drew like these giant circles and like these alchemist symbols. Like, it was like a whole thing. It was like a half an episode thing. Now it's just like hand against the wall typhoon, or like, well, I'm gonna draw this circle on my hand. I'm gonna shoot fireballs at you. Now it's like, oh, come on, I don't want to. Like, I want epic alchemist circles again.
Yeah. I don't remember that much of Brotherhood. I've only seen to episode 26. But this time I'll just finish it. It's not a long anime.
You'll see it in the first episode, because that's when it happens, and it's when I get mad.
Sure.
It's not good when you make Beltic mad in the first episode.
It's not, because I don't want to watch it after that.
Okay. Yeah, but that's all I've been up to so far.
Sweet. Well, that's everyone. So today's episode, so we've already talked about turtles and tortoises.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be talking about Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, as I put in the notes here. Fall of the Foot Clan. So stay tuned and we will start deep diving into some turtle history. Everybody. Fall of the Foot Clan, Turtles. Fall of the Foot Clan, released in August 1990 in Japan and America, and 1990 Europe as Hero Turtles. Developed by Konami and published by Ultra, which is a subsidiary of Konami, basically.
Yeah, we talked about this in the past, so...
I think we talked about this with Top Gun,
yeah.
honestly.
There we go. So previous episode. Yeah.
Did Nintendo have the same type of restrictions on the Game Boy as it did for the NES for the number of titles people could put out in a year?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was still or they just were they already know we're Ultra. We're going to keep just doing it.
Yeah, no, the Nintendo had a restriction on it, hence why honestly in the first few years of the Game Boy, they're actually really there's a lot of releases, but they were very spread out. But if you look at the later releases from 93 and after, they're pretty consistent and pretty rapid fire after that. So and composed by Michiru, I'm gonna butcher this name, Michiru Yamane.
Yeah. She's amazing.
So it says in the notes.
Yeah.
Looks like she worked from 1988 to around 2019. She might still be doing some more work, but...
yeah, she just recently did the Bloodstain soundtracks. So Bloodstain, Curse of the Moon, and Ritual of the Night. Yeah, and Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. So she stayed pretty busy for, what is that, 30 years?
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, a lot of Castlevania stuff. So Bloodlines, Symphony of the Night, Harmony of Dissonance, Aria of Sorrow, Lament of Innocence, and a whole bunch more, and some shmups and Sparkster series. So a lot of stuff that you guys have probably heard and loved. So she's quite an amazing composer. So I'm really happy to see that she's still making music and still kind of in that Castlevania genre with the new Bloodstain games.
Was she dominantly a Konami a Konami composer, or was she just kind of just free reign?
I don't remember because I don't know if is Sparkster and stuff Konami. I know there was a lot of shmups and stuff too that she did, but I know she got hooked up with Iga in the Castlevania group, and so when Iga was pushing that Bloodstain game on Kickstarter and stuff, it was everyone was is Yamane going to be part of it? And they were yes. So.
Yeah, as far as I can see, Sparkster is definitely also Konami games. So, all of these games that I can see on her career list are all, as far as I know, Konami games, except for, of course, Bloodstain. But that's basically the same team, of course. And Skullgirls, I see here, the fighting game. Besides
that would happen with a lot of composers. They would work for the company, or they would be freelance, and the same companies would kind of hit them up all the time, and that's why you look at a lot of credits in games too, and it's not real names. They're just their alias, so that people couldn't steal them and stuff like that. So it's neat to see someone spend a long time at the same company and get a lot of big projects and stuff. So.
Huh. Well, sweet. All right. So the plot, Mo, you haven't done the plot of a game in a while.
Yeah, but I'll dive into the history of the Turtles quickly because I think everybody at this point knows about the Turtles, but just in case you don't, The Turtles was actually a comic series released back in 1984, conceived by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. And to my surprise, it actually ran for 30 years. Like it ran until 2014.
Yeah.
I thought it was only in the 80s and the early 90s, but apparently it did keep on going for quite a while. But yeah, it did stop in 2014, and IDW afterwards got the rights to make new comics, and what they did is like they completely started back from the start, so they made their own history with the Turtles. It's not based, well, it's kind of based upon the original series, of course, but they totally revamped it. But they also did re-release all of the comics of the early ages, so you can get those as well. One thing to note about the original run of the Turtles comic books, all of them were in black and white, so there's not a single one.
And all the Turtles were, I think when they were referred to their color too, they were all wore red.
Indeed. So the coloring scheme,
so that was kind of neat
came
to see.
actually from the Turtles cartoon, the very first one that got released. But in the comics, at least on the covers, because again, it's black and white, they are all just wearing the red bandana and I guess, well, it's not a karate belt because they're ninjas, but some kind of belt. It's just red, yeah.
Yeah, turtles don't have pockets. Yeah, but yeah, so that's why on the cover of I think it's like the first NES, they're all in red and they're all wearing red. So it's like, I think some people were confused by that were into the cartoons and bought the games because of the cartoons. They're like, what? Why are they all Raphaels?
Indeed. So like most people, of course, got familiar with the Turtles because of the late 80s, 90s cartoon series, which to this day is still pretty well known. Sadly, if you look back at it when you're older now and you start looking at it, it's not that great as we remembered it. It's super cheesy. You can definitely see it was completely made up to sell toys, like a lot of cartoons back in those days. But you can see they are introducing like all these kind of weird vehicles and characters throughout the series that the series could have done without, but they were all there just to sell toys, actually. But it's pretty fun to watch, and to be honest, it has one of the best shredders out of the entire Turtles history, to be honest. I forgot the voice actor for it, but it's Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, who sadly has died.
Oh, was it?
A few years back.
I didn't know that he did the
he did Shredder.
Voice. That's awesome.
Yeah, I can't come up with his name right now. I'm sorry. James Avery. There we go. But yeah, his take on Shredder was just iconic. It's kind of like imagining the Joker without
Mark Hamill.
Without Mark Hamill actually voicing him. It's just typical for those characters. But yeah, besides that, of course, the Turtles got a lot of movies, where only the first two are actually good movies, and the rest we do not really talk about.
The live action one that came out in 2013 or whatever it was. That one wasn't terrible. The one from, I can't remember the director's name now. The one that ruins all my childhood.
Yeah,
movies.
the one with Megan Fox in it.
Yeah, I do not.
Yeah, that one. I didn't mind that.
I had some issues with it. I thought it works for like a younger generation, and I did like the idea that they all kind of had like their own little gear, and like Raphael was more like athletic gear, and Donatello had all kinds of like tech stuff glued to him. I liked that. I thought that was neat, but their faces were kind of funny, and I didn't like
it definitely
Megan Fox
to a different audience.
And Shredder was kind of totally terrible, but it was very actiony. It was fun though.
We can all agree that the time travel one is the worst.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
I still had those toys though.
I did too, unfortunately.
That's normal. But the third one of the 90s run of movies, for some reason they changed the costumes, even though they were perfect to begin with, and it just looks really cheap and it has cheap effects, and it's a really bad movie. Like, the plot could have worked for sure, but they totally ruined that one. But yeah, besides the cartoons, if you do want to watch a cartoon, I actually recommend the 2003 one, because it has a lot darker tone. It doesn't it's not like the original series where everything is really funny just to be funny. It has a lot darker tone. It actually borrows more from the original comic than the original cartoon did, which was because Krang and Super Krang and things like that, those didn't show up in the comics at all, in that capacity at least. So it was a little bit more kid friendly, but the 2003 one is really good. I did see the first one that came out on Nickelodeon. I absolutely did not like that, even though it got great critical reviews for some reason. But I think the turtles look dumb because it's like that 2.5D animation style, which I absolutely do not like.
Oh, I know what you're talking
They
about. Yeah,
changed
I didn't like
April to like a 13-year-old brat, which is absolutely horrible. And now there's even a newer one. There's the fourth generation of Turtles. Apparently it's really good, but I haven't seen it yet. But it's still the same. It's very made for kids, also by Nickelodeon. So yeah, it's for people our age. We are very into the early cartoon because we grew up with it, but these newer ones, we can see that it's not great when you look at the source material. And yeah, like I said, check out the 2003 or what did I say, a 13 one. I think that's an actual great adult Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon.
I'll have to check that one out. I haven't seen it. I think I've only really seen the original series from when I was a kid. I've seen like the look and stuff of some of the newer ones, and as long as if the stories are okay, then they're still fun to watch. But I mean, they're not made for my generation.
It also has a great
I guess I should
animated
like it.
movie where those turtles meet the turtles from the 90s cartoon. So that's actually a really fun fun movie to watch.
Wasn't there a live action TV show too where there was like a girl turtle, like Venus or something was her name?
There was, yeah. It was based on the Incredible Turtles tour that went around America, I guess. It was the same actors, I think, as in that live tour where they sang songs and things like that. But yeah, that's a little bit of history with the Turtles in case you are not familiar with them. But yeah, let's dive into the plot of this game. And this comes straight out of the manual, actually. So, actually not from the manual. The manual does not have a story in it. Neither does the game itself. This is from the backside of the box art. So, excuse me, there's something in my throat.
Turtle. Yeah, I was gonna say, you got a turtle in your throat.
That's not coming out.
You got Genghis Khan. Wasn't that the frog? The frog, one of the frog enemies.
Yeah, one of the 4 frogs.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him.
The swamp turtles, basically. Yeah. All right. Okay, so the plot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Follow the Foot Clan, or Hero Turtles if you're from Europe. In cahoots with the exiled alien Zap Master Krang, the evil Shredder has once again kidnapped the dashing damsel of the news desk, April O'Neil. To rescue this ravishing reporter, you must return to the sewers and dredge forth those reptiles with a penchant for pizza and all that nifty knife work of a chop suey chef. You'll control every move of Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael as they arm themselves with hat-rattling nunchakas, backstabbing side swords, and liver-lashing katana swords. We forgot to mention the incredible bow staff, of course, because nobody likes Donatello, apparently. Of course, this once in a light year adventure will really start rumbling the nanosecond you bust into 5 never-before-seen levels of Manhattan mayhem. Here you'll perfect the the ancient art of icing, dicing, and shuriken slicing, and you'll get the chance to wipe the smirks off the faces of all new creepshow freaks like Roadkill Ronnie, Shell Shocker, and the nasty villain Filet-O-Filth. So get back into your shell and start snapping away before April goes from delivering the news to singing the blues in some new cement shoes.
Wow, there's so much to unpack in that.
There you go.
Paragraph,
With the plot.
Yeah,
Wow.
like I didn't know that icing was an ancient art, like ninja art, so
Apparently,
like icing
yeah.
cupcakes and cakes and stuff. But they did kind of gloss over Donatello. He wasn't one of my favorites, but Leonardo was my least favorite as a kid. He was too by the books, and Raphael was my favorite. So.
Raphael's my favorite as well.
But Donatello seems like he's pretty OP in a lot of the games because that staff is so long.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say like Leonardo was probably my least favorite, then Donatello. It was a tie between Mikey and Raphael though.
Yeah.
For me.
I liked his attitude because of the movies. He was just such a jerk, and I loved it. He's just cranky all the time.
Yeah. It's me in a nutshell right there. Gameplay. So had an itch. So you get to pick your turtle, and while you're playing on the Game Boy, you could definitely know which turtle you're picking by the color.
Yeah. That's why they just let you choose by picking the actual name.
That's right. So you get to choose your turtle by name instead of the color like you did in the NES version. But then you get to choose your turtle, and you press start, and then you move on to stage 1, which is the traffic jam. So you get to go through the streets of Manhattan, and then you end up into the sewers.
Yeah, I don't know
Manhattan.
why they call it the traffic jam, to be honest. I took these names out of the manual.
There's no cars at all.
Only in the third part of this stage there are the Foot Clan on motorcycles. But besides that, it's not really a traffic jam. Like...
No, there's no vehicles at all. It's just you're walking down the street, making your way downtown, as some of the kids call it nowadays, and then.
Well, it's funny with I don't know if like levels are like the same way, but when on the podcast ICU we talked to a lot of Japanese composers, and they were sometimes when we told them the track title, that was the first time they'd ever heard that the title had the song had a name. So. This could have been some marketing guy was like, "Oh, it's on the street. Let's just name it Traffic Jam." Like, and then no one that worked on the game may have ever called it Traffic Jam. So
that's so good.
Yeah, I don't remember which composer we had on, but we asked them like, "Oh, hey, we're gonna play this song," and he's like, "What's that?" And we're like, "This." Oh, I think it was the composer of like the GG Elise series, and he was like, I've never heard that name before," and we're like, "Oh, okay."
I'm trying to remember what the music was for the first
that's just the
stage,
Turtles
even.
theme. So you start up with the normal Turtles theme when you're outside in the alleys, and when you go down the sewers, it changes the music to the sewer theme.
I remember the sewers. It's like do 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 do. Yeah, I remember the sewer music. I did a really good job impersonating that too. So remember how we said no singing this episode?
Well, that's humming. Let's call it humming.
Trying to find the Zofer link, but anyway, so as you're progressing through, I'm pretty sure every turtle had the same attack. See, this is hard for me because I didn't die in this game, so it was really like I always just choose Raphael, and I'm pretty sure all the turtles have the same attack.
Yeah, they have this pretty much the same attack animation. You can see the different weapon, but I think they all have pretty much the same reach, do the same damage, so it doesn't really matter which turtle you pick, but I did die a few times the first time I played this game. It takes a little bit. If you're not if you go a little too fast in the beginning, you're just like you get overwhelmed because everything moves so slowly. So
that's true.
No, the thing is, all the turtles are literally exactly the same. The only difference you can tell is, of course, by the weapon they're holding. But yeah, I've written down, especially when looking at the graphics for this game, I think the backgrounds look amazing in this game. I think, the stage design looks amazing. I think the enemy sprites in this game, besides some questionable enemies that don't make any sense, like the rolling donuts that I call them, I think Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
the
they actually did
Cheerios.
a pretty good job on all the sprites, like even the bosses. But when you look at the turtles, they are like blank husks of something. Like they are very poorly animated, like besides their walking animation.
Yeah.
And the thing that they did do was for Raphael and for Michelangelo, they actually do make the nunchaka swing or the sai swing around when you're walking. But besides that, they're pretty much, well, what, three animation sprite. Well, I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I feel like the
Yeah.
animation is where it looks the worst. I think the turtles look kind of derpy, but I think they look pretty
They
good. They're
definitely
really
look
big sprites too. But yeah, the animation I feel like is where this game could be deceiving as a bad game when you first play it. Like everything moves really slow, the jump is really weird, the attacks are really like there's only like the one attack and the kick and stuff. So you'd think they're like, this isn't going to be very fun, but it is a really fun game. And I thought it was kind of going to be really dumb in the beginning, but I really did grow to like this game quite a bit.
I think my biggest issue is the attention to detail on everything. Like if you look at the stages, like the bricks, you can see all individual bricks in the cracks and the degradation of the bricks. Like if you're on like the pipes, you can see like the highlighting of the pipes and like all the detail of the pipes. Even the enemies, like the Foot Clan, like all of their like the armor is very well detailed. Rocksteady and Bebop are very well detailed.
Oh yeah.
But then you look at the turtle, and it's like, here's an outline of what the turtles
Yes.
looked like, but we didn't have time to finish detailing the turtle, so use your imagination. And I was like, all right, well, it seems like the main thing of the whole game just didn't get finished. I think that's probably, like, that was the first standout thing to me, was just everything around the turtle was exceptionally detailed and very well done. But the turtle itself just wasn't. It just seemed like the turtle wasn't done. It just seemed like it was a placeholder, and they ran out of time and pushed it live.
I think the thing that first kind of gave me a little bit of alarm bells was how kind of basic the character select and stage select, because you can start with any of the 5 stages in the beginning of the game, no matter if you've never played it before at all. But it's just text, so it's pretty blank. And I thought, oh no, this is not good. But I was pleasantly surprised with this game.
Yeah, and I remember diving into the game and hearing like the music. The music throughout the entire game is phenomenal in my opinion. One of the better OSTs on Game Boy. But just like seeing the animation of the turtle too, it was also just really spiked, because when you jump, like you just lift up your leg just a little bit every time, and when you jump, you're really floaty when you jump as well too.
It reminded
When
me
you
of those
walk,
old
it's
like
like
Tiger handhelds where like you had the minimal animation, so just like only one part of him could move at a time.
Yep, and you had like the 3 animation sprite while walking, and like a lot of times when you're swinging, it was just like you swung, but like sometimes the hitboxes wouldn't like just register, so you just get hit for no reason whatsoever. You're just like, all right, well, that's cool. But other than that, though, like the sprite work outside of the turtle, phenomenal. And honestly, the cutscenes in between the stages are actually very well done. I don't know. I just had a problem with the turtle sprite and the animation. That was the 2 biggest jarring things to me while going into the game. But going into the sewers, like we completely change up the music going into the sewers, which is actually a really interesting screen transition too, because like it doesn't like slow roll into another scene, kind of like a Metroidvania game, but but it also doesn't like take its time to like understand that it's a completely different stage. Like it's a pretty quick blip into like a whole nother part of the actual level sequence, and the whole music just changes on a dime to the sewer. Which when I first heard this song, I was just like, oh, this is very unique compared to what I would expect in a Turtles game. Because like when I think Turtles game, I think high action, high tempo, just like rock and roll type music throughout this entire thing. And then I hear the sewer song, and it's like, all right, this kind of gives me a little bit of like a Mario vibe, but at the same time, it's also like kind of like a horror thrilling into my ear right now too.
Yeah, it's a dreadful song for sure. Like it like all the music, and we'll be definitely talking about each track when we get to it. It really sets the tone of the place you're in, and that's a really good job that you can also see in the composer's other games. Like, she definitely knows what she is writing music for.
Yeah. Right. And at first, I don't think I had listened to the soundtrack before I played the game, so I wasn't sure what to expect. And then with the first level kind of getting like the Turtles theme, I was like, oh no, is it going to be... every level is going to be like a different take on the Turtles theme? Because I've heard that in some games, like GoldenEye has like a lot of like James Bond mixed into every track, and you're like, oh, okay, but they did it really well. But obviously a lot of Game Boy games didn't get the attention they deserved, and sometimes licensed games were just kind of a grab for money. So I was like, oh man, is this going to be what we're going to listen to? But I was pleasantly surprised when we got to that second part that I was just like, wow, this is going to be good.
And then you face off against Rocksteady as the stage 1 boss, which kind of a joke in my opinion. I don't know. I didn't have much problems with Rocksteady. Basically, you kind of just get into his face and hit him. You're kind of okay.
If you take too much of it, he will shoot at you with his machine gun. So you have to.
Yeah. But I think that's a good first start. Like.
I agree.
Because if they would have made the game where you could pick any level, but you eventually had to beat them all, then I think that could be a problem with picking some bosses first, or even designing the game to work like that. But I thought Rocksteady was fun, a character that you knew, and it was not too bad. So it kind of gave you this feeling of, all right, let's keep going. We can get a little further now.
Yeah, I was glad that they chose bosses from the Turtles, actually, too, because, like, I can recall playing licensed games and bosses being nothing from the actual, like, movie or show or anything at all. And so when I saw Rocksteady, I was immediately like, oh, sweet, so I'm going to expect Bebop, but after that, like, I'm going to expect Krang and Shredder. But, like, after that, I don't know what bosses to expect afterwards. Like, am I going to get the Fly? Am I going to get Sewer King? Like, what am I going to get afterwards? So, I thought that was actually pretty cool.
I think that because of the cartoon, they had a ton of characters they could pick from. I think it's funny that Baxter is, like, becomes, like, a major boss in the games, like, all the time. Just some dopey scientist that turns into a fly, but...
then after you beat down Rocksteady, I think it depends on what turtle that you chose. You get a little cutscene afterwards of the turtle posing, and then it goes into another player selects screen again, and then you can choose what turtle you want to go with next again. Stage 2, the sewer of your dreams.
Yeah, again, taken from the manual. That's what they call it.
Did they put actual in there too? Oh,
that's what I said, because you go to the sewers in the first stage.
I have the manual.
And this one they call the sewer of your dreams, but I think it's a factory or something, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Grab it quick.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I thought it was kind of neat the way that the levels were broken up, how like the first level you kind of get into like a totally different area, and then the second level feels like it kind of continues from what I remember. So it's weird. It feels like the levels are like staggered, but the number of the level doesn't change yet. So
yeah, they're kind of interconnected, but yeah, this one, like, I don't know why they call it a sewer. Like, for me, it was always a factory, and when I look at the music list, like, I guess these are just what people put there as a title for the songs. They also call it Lower Factory and Upper Factory, and yeah, I always felt like it was more of a factory.
Yeah, I always called it the factory stage because it had crushers in it. I can't think of any sewers that would have a crusher in it. So
You gotta squish the poop.
Yeah, absolutely.
you do gotta squish the poop. I got Radical Rescue. That's not Fall of a Clan. This is what happens when you're not prepared. I didn't expect to want to pull up my manual. I have a Burger Time Deluxe manual.
Great.
Shit, you not. Oh, I have so many goddamn manuals. So yeah, when you first start off into the sewer state, oh god, a bunch of manuals just almost fell. I have so many Game Boy manuals. When you first start off in the stage, the background of it is a worn down warehouse. There's a lot of holes and cracks in the walls and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then as you're progressing through, you're introduced to these crusher blocks, basically these pistons coming from the ceiling and the floor, trying to crush you. But outside of that, it's not too terribly bad. If you just kind of walk slowly through it, it's not all terrible.
And you can duck, right? When they don't actually crush you?
Yeah, you can duck underneath them as well, too. The biggest issue to this stage, in my opinion, are the flying enemies. You get these propeller flies that come at you that kind of do a little swivel move. Those things drive me absolutely insane. And then eventually you get the Black Wheel of Doom chasing you. Which you can jump over. I think you can even I don't know if you can hit it or not, but
no, they're totally impervious to
damage. But the way the jumping over works is that your jumping is floaty, so you think you'd have an advantage to jump over it. But if you hit the ceiling, you don't quite make it all the way sometimes. If you have to time your jump just right to get over these wheel of dooms.
And I don't think, if I remember right, they move quite a distance vertically but not horizontally, right? So they jump up really high, but they don't move very far forward in the jump. It's kind of like Mega Man. You can get a good sized jump, but you're only jumping a couple tiles forward.
And it's not crazy.
And I remember the hitboxes being quite large on the turtles, so it was pretty easy to you jump a little too late, or something like that, and you end up, or you come down and you still end up catching the backside of the enemy. But I remember that the controls felt a little odd, and I had to go and switch to the B setting or whatever, where it's flipped attack, and because it just felt so weird playing as this within the standard controls. So, and the jumping was the big thing. I kept just mixing them up. I'd go to jump and I'd hit attack and stuff. So,
yeah, it switches it up at the start. The normal controls are B is jump and A is attack, but of course that is totally ridiculous for any game. So you definitely want to switch that up.
I mean, if that's the only game you've ever played, then sure, I'm sure you'd get used to it. But when most other games are not that, it's like trying to play with a controller upside down or something. It's weird.
Yeah, speaking of the hitboxes, nobody has ever done a study of them in this game, but they are very questionable, to say the least in this game. It's not your entire turtle that is a hitbox. It's more it's a rectangle spread out through the bottom part of your body. I think it cuts off right under the chin of the turtle or something like that, but then it expands beyond the actual sprite, and it is really weird because when you trying to jump over enemies, sometimes you get hit while they're technically not even close to you, but other times you just jump through an enemy even though it clearly hit you. So it's kind of weird to get used to, but
I noticed that for attacks too.
And that's why a lot of
sometimes an enemy would be touching your sprite and you attack them, and because the attack animation is pretty quick, but you wouldn't take damage. And there's other times where you would have hit them and you clearly hit them, but it wouldn't register, and then they would bump into you. So, but I mean, it's not so horrible. It's not unplayable. It's just a little. It feels like an old game, I guess.
Definitely, and it is a pretty early game as well. So you can yeah, blame it on that, I guess. But yeah, the same thing with the ceiling. You can actually jump through a ceiling going vertically, but you cannot move horizontally
Right.
through a ceiling. You get stopped by it, which is also very weird. Like, why would that be even a thing if you can jump through it anyways?
Yeah.
Like, either stop you from jumping through it completely or something. But I guess it's because of the size of the sprites, and they wanted to give you at least a way to avoid certain enemies by jumping over them. But yeah, because you travel so slowly forwards during your jump, you usually get hit anyway.
Yeah, because that's one of the things you notice right from the bat of this game is that the turtles are quite large, especially for a Game Boy game. Especially if you've played like the first like Super Mario Land, where Mario's like itty bitty, and then you have this gigantic turtle taking up a huge portion of the screen. And I think in the later iterations of the turtle games, the sprite gets a little bit smaller, but it's
in the second one is actually
Is
even
it?
bigger than in this one.
I don't think I've played the second game
It's way
yet.
bigger. It takes up half of the screen, but the hitboxes are improved for sure and things like that. So it does make it a little bit easier to get through it.
Yeah, so this stage also introducing some decent amount of platforming too, because you had to jump over pits, and then you have, I guess you can call them potaboos, but you had the fireballs that jumped out of the pits too. Seeming like, I don't know any fireballs that live in a sewer. I could expect some fireballs in some factories,
Eat some Taco Bell. And
That's
you might have
true.
some fireballs in the sewer.
That is true. Get some Diablo sauce on there.
Yeah.
But the biggest pet peeve I have with that little section too, because that's towards like the middle end of the stage, is that there's the falling ceiling blocks at the top, but they don't flash, they don't do anything, they just look like a normal ceiling block that's a little bit lower. But if you touch it, you get hurt and it falls, so it can actually hit you twice if you're not careful. And it's like, oh, okay, nice beginner's trap here, or like. Sometimes, like, the way that the screen moves is that it follows the turtle up. Like, it keeps the turtle centered, which most of the time is pretty nice. But as you're walking, these ceiling tiles are above the plane of view, and they'll fall out of nowhere. You're just like, where did that come from? Like, okay.
Yeah. It seemed like, for me, the best beginner playthrough strat was itty-bitty steps at a time. Just go slow. Wait for stuff to come on the screen, kill it, and then move a little bit forward and wait and wait. So it was going like a lot. It was pretty slow, which I guess could be a little bit boring. But if you want to get through it, then at least learn where stuff is at. Then that seemed like a pretty good way to go.
Yeah, I always just jump kicked everywhere. Like if I was jumping over a pit, jump kicking. Like I don't know what's in between these platforms.
Yeah, you might as well attack if you're gonna jump.
And then the boss for this is Bebop. Bebop is a pretty easy fight. It's going to shoot and charge at you, so it has like this, I don't know what kind of gun you want to call it, wave gun, I guess. It shoots like 3 pulses at you. You can jump in between the pulses, it's pretty easy, or jump over all 3 if you're on the other side of the screen. You kick Bebop in the face, then he's going to walk to the other side of the screen, rinse and repeat the attack, basically. A very, very easy fight as well, too. Just understand that you just have to jump over the Cheerios, kick him in the face. He's gonna shoot again.
I don't remember in this game if you deal damage to the boss and they're in their invincibility frames, do you still take damage you bump into them?
No.
Okay,
No,
that's
you
what I
can
thought I
walk
remembered.
through
Yeah,
them,
because I thought I kind of ended up doing that a little bit. It was like hit them and kind of just walk through them and get on the other side of them, stuff like that.
Yeah, and then once you take down Bebop, all four turtles magically appear and jump out of the sewer. So I guess you are in the sewer technically.
I guess.
So
under the sewer, under the ground.
You jump out of a sewer, and it says, "Oh no, they escaped by car." But the turtles in this cutscene, I'm looking at it right now, they look very anorexic. They look like I don't know.
Maybe you were in a literal poop factory.
Oh, maybe. But like again, like everything around them is fairly well detailed, and the turtles are just jarringly undetailed. Just like it looks like something that would haunt you in your dreams. Like in the bandanas, like the 2 front standing turtles are Donatello, it looks like, and Leonardo, of course. And their eyes are just white dots and like these dark bandanas, and they're just like staring at you, just like piercing into your soul. And you're just like, oh, I don't like this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a jarring image as well. But we didn't talk about the music all much. So in stage 2, we had the lower factory, I guess is what it's called. Where you're in the, I guess, the poop section. Pretty calming music, honestly. It just seems like there's not going to be much going on. I guess it's a casual stroll through some poop.
Yeah.
It has some nice little like jazzy bits to it, but otherwise, like, it doesn't make you like think you're gonna fight the entire Foot Clan.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that's nice to get what you don't expect, because I think a lot of especially in the music for games, there's just so much that's like everything, like all fire sounds like this, all ice levels sound like this, and I think what some of the great soundtracks do is it's just something totally unexpected. Like if you listen to any of David Wise's Donkey Kong stuff, like most of it does not sound like what you would expect that game to have, and it just is so refreshing to see. So I think sometimes having games just be so intense all the time, because obviously later in the game you're going to get to the bigger boss fights and the more dangerous levels. I think that's when it's nice to have all that tension, and you kind of build up. In the beginning you're kind of learning the controls, so sometimes I think in beginning levels, if it's more calm and kind of like more like happy or excited, like, hey, you're doing it, you're getting there, and then later on when it gets hard, then it's like, oh yeah, this is hard, like listen to how mean this song is.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, but like it's also interesting too. So like we did talk about, like, once you get to the end of a stage or a part of a stage, if it's not the boss, you'll either jump up through the ceiling or you'll jump down through the floor. In stage 2, once you finish the first part of it, you jump up into the upper part of the, I guess, sewer, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And it's the same song, basically, but the tempo is faster, and it has a bit more, like, rhythm to the song as it goes on, too. Like, it's as if, like, you're getting, it's picking up, like something is about to happen. And
that's what's I've noticed that with this game too, like even those transitions to the second parts of the level or even to the new levels and stuff like that, it's a nice thing, because some games just don't. You just walk to the end and then it just fades out and you start the next level. So it gives you that feeling that this is all interconnected and it's not just a bunch of random levels, even though they have different scenes and backgrounds and stuff. Then the music kind of does that too. It continues to ramp up and give you more the further you get. So it's like a reward. And I like when music and other audio stuff is used like that, where it's not just the game gets harder as more of a reward, like you get more audio and stuff. So I think that's neat, and it kind of helps with that progression, that feeling that everything's connected.
Yeah, I 100%. Especially if you're going to do something like stage 1, like you start off in a back alley and then you're gonna go down into a sewer, or like even in like stage 2, like you're in the lower part of a sewer, and then you jump up, but now you're in the upper part of a sewer. Like it's all connected. It's all one bundle. It's not like stage 1 lower factory, stage 2 upper factory, stage 3 middle. It's not disconnected. It's not disjointed like that.
Or if you play like like Batman on Game Boy, like every level has a different theme, but they don't feel connected. You don't feel like you traveled from one area to the other. Whereas this one, it feels like you kind of do. Like even though can be kind of a stark change to the new scene, it still feels like you traveled there and you got there by progressing through the game, instead of you beat the level and now, oh yay, you're in a totally different location that could be halfway across town, or you don't know. Like, so it kind of adds to the immersion, I guess, for a Game Boy game, which is it's pretty rare,
especially an early 90s Game Boy game. So
it probably did that because it was so early, though. They didn't fall into a lot of the tropes that a lot of games were doing, where it's just, hey, now you're underwater. Okay, how do we get there?
And then once you enter any boss, you get the boss. But you gotta have a boss battle theme. You just got to. And this is where like the music is really quick, really this like intense, like almost anxiety inducing. If you're brand new to the game, you're just like, oh my god, like I have to hurry up and like start pressing a bunch of buttons really quickly. And then whenever you hit the boss, you hear this like wow noise too, like this like a jarring, this like loud pitch during like this high tempo, like high anxiety song too. Like it's, I don't know, it's a lot sometimes. It's like for me, like that when it comes to that type of music, it gets that kind of disjoints me personally, because like you had this nice slowish music in stage 2, then all of a sudden like you get into bebop, and now you get like this. I'm not a music person. High tempo, in your face, like rock and roll song all of a sudden, and you have bebop shooting at you, walking at you, and like if you're a first time player, and like especially as if you're a kid. Like that gets your adrenaline rolling. It doesn't matter, you know.
It makes you panic a little bit, so it's harder to sit there and recognize their probably very easy to recognize pattern and beat them. But I think it also adds to the sense of being a turtle. Like those other the other enemies that you fought throughout the level, they're a joke. Like don't worry about it. And then when you get to Bebop or Rocksteady or something, you're just like, oh wait a minute, this is like a boss that has a name, a character that has a name. So maybe I need to worry about them a little bit more. So, but yeah, as a kid, that would definitely be the thing with the boss music. Is very stress inducing, very make you panic, and then you're just like, you maybe go in there with not perfect health, and you're already sweating it, and then it makes you have to do it a few times to figure out. Yeah. And then you're just like, oh man, whoops. It just makes you figure out, oh man, this is so easy. Like just stay too close, stay close to them, or do this or that.
They are easy fights too, but it's just like the fact that music is rolling. You're just like, oh god, like your mind goes 1,000 miles an hour, so you're not thinking straight. But like in reality, like Bebop has 2 attacks that you can just jump over. Like, it's not a hard fight by any means at all,
Yeah. Well, it's like if you've seen any of those movies or movie trailers that have different music dubbed to them, you could easily make, a movie like 300 seem like some 80s buddy comedy by, cutting the trailer up differently and adding different music. And it's just, music sets such a tone. And I think that, obviously visuals set a good tone, but, Game Boy was pretty limited in some of its visual capacity for mood setting. So music was kind of where it really needed to be. And unfortunately, some games didn't take music very seriously, and other games maybe took it a little too seriously and missed out on some of the mechanics. But I think some games that do it really well turn out to be really endearing, whether the game has flaws or not.
Yeah, I definitely know what trailer it's talking about. I watched one where they made Forrest Gump into a horror movie. That was actually really funny. But yeah, I don't know. But moving on to stage 3 now, they call it the highway. As a kid, I called it the train level. I don't know why. But it because like all the trucks are just like connected, like it's literally like rush hour traffic, they're all bumper to bumper.
They were trucks, but yeah, it seemed like there wasn't really that gap between them, so it was essentially a train level.
No.
Yeah, but
in my manual it said that it's Queens. I don't know why it's Queens, but apparently it's Queens.
That level should have been called Traffic Jam.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it could have originally been called Traffic Jam, and somebody mistranslated or attributed it to the wrong level, and maybe the first one should have been Queens and the third one should have been Traffic Jam.
That makes a lot more sense, actually, because like Queens is just a neighborhood, right, where people live, not.
I think so. Yeah.
Not a highway or anything like
be
that.
From Queens.
Yeah. So maybe they did change.
Somebody screwed up.
Accidentally changed it when printing the manual. That makes a lot of sense.
Konami. God. Konami. It's always something with you.
Yeah. But this is like not only the easiest stage in the game, but also the shortest
Real
stage
short,
in the game.
Yeah. Which is
goes by
kind of a
fast.
shame too, because like even though like there's actually not a ton of detail to the stage at all, like in terms of this like background atmosphere, but like the fact that they actually took the time and put some like clouds and a skyline in the background is actually really cool. And even though it's a repeating scroll, it's still nicely done. It adds a nice touch to it, as if like you're on a bridge, like you're fighting.
Yeah, because without that, it would just look like static trucks. Like it would just seem like you're walking across a traffic jam. But but yeah, it definitely adds a lot to that background, whether it's repeating or not. It makes it feel faster and more interesting. But it is kind of an interesting choice for a level, because the previous levels had a lot of platforming, whether vertical or horizontal. And when you kind of do like these train levels type, it's pretty much just left to right, and there's not a lot of platforming. It can tend to be a kind of a boring like level on paper, and so you have to kind of make it exciting with the enemy encounters and stuff like that. So
it's probably why they made it so short, honestly, because like in stages 1 and 2, like if you get to the end of like one screen, you ended up progressing to a different screen before you'd face the boss. But in Queens or Highway or whatever you want to call it, the train stage, you once you get to the end, you jump up and you face Baxter. Like you get to fight the Fly. Like there's no like other parts. Like you don't go into the trucks at all, like the beds of the trucks. Like you don't like jump off of the highway. Like there's just none of that at all. It's just like, okay, we hit the final truck, now we're gonna fight Baxter. It's just like, all right. And even still, like that fight itself is I don't know, kind of a joke. He does like a little, he shoots 5 shots basically. He shoots a tri-shot and then he shoots a dual shot. And if you're on the ground, he's going to dip down, similar to like Kracko. If you ever played Kirby's Dream Land and got to Bubbly Clouds and fought Kracko swoops down. He'll do that, but if you jump up in the air while he's shooting his 5 shots, or like after his 5 shots, he'll actually just fly across the top of the screen. And after a few hits, he falls down head first, and that's the end of the stage. And then depending on the turtle that you chose, Raphael, let's just be fair, it's going to show Raphael, in a pose, a very well detailed turtle pose, mind you.
Yep.
And it's going to say, here's the river, let's chase them, because apparently we just jumped off of the bridge or whatever. But the music in the stage, man, it matches, like the music for this stage matches perfectly of what's happening in this stage, because the background is flying so fast, like it's like, it looks like you're going 1,000 miles an hour, because the background is scrolling so quickly. You're jumping from truck to truck, you're fighting all the Foot Clan, and the music for the stage is super quick. Like it's fast. It has a lot. It's high tempo, high impact, everything. Like everything that you could possibly want in a fast paced stage, this song hits.
Yeah, and like I said before, without some of those elements, this stage would be super boring.
Yeah,
like you don't really have anything to go, anywhere to go up or down, and part of the screen is even taken up with the trucks themselves, so you don't even have as much space as you probably normally would, and without that scrolling background and that intense music, you just feel like you're just literally in like a traffic jam, just walking across cars.
Yeah. Stage 1.
yeah.
Yeah, and then of course the normal boss battle music, but and then we go into stage 4, which in my opinion this is the worst stage of the entire game.
I have a specific reason why I don't like this stage. It's just the diagonals. Like it's so hard walking down the diagonals. It's so dumb. It looks nice, but I feel like they just shouldn't have had them.
My 2 least favorite things of this stage is the diagonals, and then if once you're underwater, you have to trying to jump up and hit enemies is just impossible, because you're so much more floaty underwater. You're just like, oh, this is obnoxious. You have no control of your turtle at all. It's like, this is insanely obnoxious, and I do not like this stage.
Yeah, if you don't change your timing, then it's just going to cause you to get hit, or so you have to like get get used to being underwater. And those diagonals just make it terrible. You take like a half a step and it's like somebody's on you and it's like, I just want to move. Like, can I get out of here, please? And there's
and I
was gonna say, and they're like all over the place. There's like so many of these little ramps underwater, and they look really nice. It's just it wasn't like coded to feel like a ramp. Like it feels like you're taking steps, and
absolutely. Yeah, and the thing is, like, once you get in the bottom of the river, it's just water and ground, and there's not much to see otherwise. Like, it's not detailed. Whereas the start of the stage, it starts pretty cool. You're at the bed of the river. Logs are floating by. You can jump on them. You have a nice background and things like that. But yeah, once you hit those, and luckily there are only 2 parts where you go actually into the river completely. It's just water, and that's basically.
Yeah, they could have had some neat, like, just some more detail. But I guess some of the lack of the detail makes it feel like dark, murky water. I guess you don't really see a whole lot. But yeah, that whole section was just kind of a pain. But yeah, like you said, the beginning of the level was really cool. You could get up on a log and the foot soldier would get stuck down below, and then you're like, oh sweet, like I'm okay. Like you can take a little breather. But then you can jump from log to log, or you end up back in the water. So it was neat for a level that's mostly just kind of flat horizontal. And the river, like going under, could have been nice. It could have been really neat, but it just ended up feeling like not fun. So you just couldn't wait to get out of it. And not fun just because it was hard. It just didn't seem to be working properly.
And they throw so much at you. Like there is no rest in this stage at all. Like between, if you take 2 steps, you have like two jumping Foot Clan guys coming at you. You have piranha fish, of all things, coming at you. You have these stupid tires that magically know how to roll underneath water, like hitting you. Then you have like those giant balls of doom again that come at you. You're just like, oh, can we just have like a little bit of break? Please just let me, you know, catch my breath, or just have like 4 steps of just peace and calm. But no, like it's a constant barrage of enemies. And another bad part is, like, when you're on those logs, like, the logs are close to the top of the screen where some of these, like, Cheerios or tires, I guess, are falling from. And, like, sometimes you just don't have time to react to it because the log is pulling you backwards as you're trying to jump forward. You know, it's just, I don't know, like, they had a lot of potential to make that river part really cool because you're a turtle, you know?
Right.
But, I mean, I can give it some slack. It's the first turtle game on the Game Boy very early on. But at the same time, we just went through 3 stages with high detail, very well thought out level design for the most part, and 3 very just unique stages to begin with. And now we go into this river stage where it's basically just a hold right gauntlet of enemies that come at you, and it's like, all right, and it's not super well detailed.
Absolutely not. The good thing, though, again, is the music in the stage, which for me literally just screams like floating down a raft on a river, or even one of those theme park rides where you're on a log or something. There's just some tone in the music for this stage. It just shows that you're not just in a water level per se, but just like a fun floaty ride on water or something like that. So that's really well done.
Yeah, because for one thing that the cartoon really did was it always made it seem like the turtles were having fun no matter what type of situation they were in. So translating that to the game, it made it feel fun. Like, even though it was kind of brutal, the turtles seemed like they were smiling, like they were having a good time. Yeah. So it kind of added to that feeling of, okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going a little bit. And I really liked that you could pick whatever level you wanted to right from the beginning. So say you played a bunch and you never got very far into the ravine level, you could just jump right to it whenever you started. You didn't have to worry about writing down passwords or any saves or anything like that. So, or if like you could kind of play through the game like that, like, oh, I got a game over in the 3rd level. Okay, let's start with the 3rd level with all my lives and then work my way forward. And then, oh, okay, I got a game over in the 4th level. Let's start back at the 4th level. So So some of those levels, like the ravine, where it's kind of a gauntlet, it was nice to let you to continue and try out all the levels, see how fun they are, and listen to all the music. That was one thing that I really liked when I first played this. Was I had quite a few game overs, so I could just kind of hop around and see like, oh, what is this level like? All right, this is cool. Let me try to get to the next level.
Yeah, I like how the manual calls this the waste dump ravine, but in the cutscene before this stage, they call it a river.
River.
So that's New York for you, apparently.
Yeah.
But the nice part is, like, once you're done with the, I guess, river segment. Also, the music, by the way, reminds me a lot of when you're playing Battletoads. For those listening, I hate Battletoads. I despise that game. All forms of Battletoads, yeah, all of them.
I really liked the first one on Game Boy.
The original one. That one's the better of them.
Yeah, the original one. Yeah, that's the one I like a lot. I haven't played the other ones.
I do like Battletoads and Double Dragon, but I end up playing as the Double Dragon guys anyway because I don't like Battletoads. So it becomes a Double Dragon game for me. But anyway, it reminds me of the jet ski or surfing part of Battletoads.
Uh-huh.
Like that music reminds me of that part of the game a lot. Like whenever we're in Battletoads in that water segment, it's super fast paced, but it's kind of fun because you're on a jet ski, you're on a surfboard, whatever it is, and you're having fun in the water, you're having a good time, wet and wild, wherever it is you want to be. The music for the Turtles reminds me of that a little bit. Which might be another reason why I don't like this stage. So it reminds me of Battletoads.
Yeah.
But once you get to the end of the river segment, though, you jump up and you're into basically a cave, which is the same music as it's the sewers. Yeah.
Stage. Which is good because, like, again, you get that dreadful feeling while going through it. But sadly, this is the most boring stage to look at ever because it's really just a floor.
Yeah. There's no background at all.
I feel like the last couple stages kind of it seemed like they ran out of steam as far as the detail goes. But yeah, but you feel like I mean, when you first started the game, there's 5 levels, so you're in the second to last level. So I think like, leading up to the boss, you're just like, oh man, when is it going to be Shredder? Like, I'm afraid of Shredder. And then, you're like, boom, it's Shredder.
Well, it's just like, it's so weird too. Like, if you look at the screen, like the foreground is very nicely detailed. Like the ground and the ceiling are very nicely detailed. And there's a small gradient of dark gray to white in the background. That's it. There's no texture at all.
Maybe it's meant to make the cave feel expansive, like make it feel big.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. But this also introduces the second worst enemy in the game, and it's those jumping robot things that bite a hold of your butt and don't let go.
Oh, are those the Mousers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're terrible in any game, but they're so cute. They're these tiny little robots.
Yeah, they're cute until they get a hold of you, and you have to swing 32 times to get them off of you.
Yeah.
And they just pop out of the ground out of nowhere too, just like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah,
cool, where'd you come from?
Their placement is pretty ridiculous, but once again, they're cute little robots.
This level also introduced like these little like star diamond things too. And they place them in the most opportune parts too, where you have to jump over the Wheel of Doom while kicking, and sometimes they bring 2 of them onto the screen at you at once, and like there's just so much happening again. Like it's just a gauntlet of enemies coming at you. So you're just thinking like, okay, what's the next enemy going to be? Like we haven't seen the Technodrome at all yet. We haven't really seen any major like hideouts yet. We faced against Baxter. Okay, like who's next, right? So yeah, I don't know. Like the whole section here was just kind of just I didn't like it. Like there was a lot to do. Don't get me wrong, there was a ton to do, but it was just there was no break at all, and like everything coming at you, just like you had like a small window of opportunity to not get hit by anything at all. Like if you were going to die a lot on any stage, it's stage 4.
Yeah.
But yeah,
definitely the hardest stage. Yeah. But of course, yeah, that entire boring section leads up to the Shredder fight. And it's definitely the hardest fight in the game, in my opinion. Mostly because of his ability to teleport throughout the room, and while he's doing that, he's still in his invulnerability frames. And if you don't know how to jump correctly, like all Shredder does is basically swing his sword or another katana or whatever he's holding to you. But it's really hard to avoid that thing if you don't know what you're doing.
His sword has some reach, man.
Yeah, it seemed like for that fight, from what I remember, it's more patience and opportunity. It's definitely not like just like attack. It's like sneak in, get out, get away. Like, don't try to get too greedy.
It's like as soon as he walks in, you have to hit and immediately start running away, because like you have like because your turtle walks super slow, and you have just enough time to hit Shredder with like literally the end of your weapon and get away from him while he swings his sword to not get hit.
Right.
And mind you, you have 8 hit points. Each hit is 1 or 2 damage.
Well, for Shredder, it's 2. Like all the other bosses, it's 1.
Yep.
But as we're getting to like the big boss fights, Shredder does 2 damage, so you can take a maximum of 4 hits.
Yep.
Depending on what you had before entering the fight, that is.
And then each enemy, I believe, only has 5 hit points. So it seems like you have the advantage of having more hit points, but the Shredder fight, his reach with that sword is insane on how far he can hit you. And when you lose a turtle, it is a jarring noise. It's like it's like, oh, I don't like that noise at all.
Yeah.
So and then it shows a cutscene of the turtle like in a fetal position, basically like, oh god, no, not like this.
Yeah, because like a lot of the turtle games, we didn't mention this before, but a lot of the turtle games, the turtles act as the lives. So you lose one turtle, they get captured or whatever, and so you have essentially 4 lives in the game to, infinite continues because you just can start from whatever level you wanted to. But yeah, it sucks. It always felt bad losing a turtle, especially if you were always playing as your favorite turtle, and then that was the one you lost first. You're like, oh, damn, I gotta play as Leonardo.
But something we didn't talk about either is when once you've defeated a boss in this game, you get the nice little jingle of da 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 da, and it moves on to the next. And it moves on to the next stage screen. And fighting Shredder, like we said, like he teleports around, and his teleporting is kind of random. Like if he's on one side of the screen, he'll probably end up on the other side of the screen, but you don't know how far away from the edge he's going to be. So again, like there is some traveling as well too. So like Shredder will walk at you if you are too far away. And your window of opportunity to hit him if he's walking at you is even smaller than if you can meet him at the end of his teleport. But again, you have to be careful because while he's teleporting, while he's still flashing, he's in iframes. You can't hurt him at all. So you have to wait for him to become a solid sprite to hurt him. It's actually a pretty tough fight. And it's a lot of just what Manovermars said. It's just it's patience. Like you have to have a lot of patience for this fight.
So yeah, after finally beating Shredder, which again is one of the harder fights in the game, it's time to finally head into the actual Technodrome.
Yeah, it's funny that the Technodrome is always like the final. It seems like always is the final area. But yeah, we were talking earlier about how the levels kind of progress and become less populated. Like visually, and I remember the Technodrome being kind of underwhelming in like the way that it looks as well.
Yeah, it's not that great. I don't think they could have done a lot more with it. You can definitely see that you're inside of the Technodrome, but besides like the lasers that shoot from the ceiling or from the floor, there isn't that much going on in there besides a few platforms here and there. It does have like some metallic look to it for sure because of the way they do the pattern for the floors and the ceiling. But besides that, it's mainly just throwing all the enemies to you that have been in previous stages. And I think it also is the first time you actually run into the roadkill Rodneys, which have been a staple of, I think, the animated series. I think that's where they stemmed from. But they definitely were in the very first arcade game as well, one of the first few enemies you run into. And yeah, those guys are a little bit tougher than your normal enemy because it basically take 2 hits to actually kill. But that's only when you use your normal attack. But throughout the game, it's actually always, of course, better to use the jump attack because it does double damage. So you take out all these Rodneys with 1 hit. But it's actually a really dumb mechanic, if I can say so, because literally besides all the bosses in the game and the roadkill Rodneys, every enemy just takes 1 hit anyway. So it's actually a very useless technique beyond that.
Yeah, there's just a couple enemies that really benefit from them having that jump kick.
Yeah, also through like the stage too, like even from the get-go, it's nonstop. It's just like it was when you're in the river. It's just a nonstop gauntlet through the entire stage as well too. And the music is actually it has its own unique music. You know, some stages kind of just recycled some other music from previous stages. The Technodrome has its own unique music up until you get inside of the Technodrome. Once you get inside the Technodrome, then it plays the alley music from stage 1. But like you can tell this is the final stage of a video game. If you've ever played any game from like the late 80s and early 90s, whether it's Game Boy, NES, Super Nintendo, like whatever it may be, when you get to the final stage, with the exception of Castlevania, they were relentless with the enemies that they threw at you. Like they would be like, well, we have a whole bag left of enemies that we can still use. Grab them by the handfuls and start throwing them onto the screen.
It is what it kind of feels like. It's just like a nonstop barrage of just like every step you take, another enemy seems to kind of appear on screen. It's like sometimes 2 or 3 of them. It is like pretty dauntless. And I think like it makes the progression of this level seem very slow. So you maybe don't even notice that there's not really a lot of like platforming to it. There's like Mo said, there's a little bit, but it has this overall like very kind of flat feel.
Yeah, it's a pretty basic level, like at its core. It's just you walking up to the Technodrome, you know, before going inside of it, and then once you're inside, you have the metallic, you know, the robot-y machinery feel. But
yeah, and with that, I just feel like if you look at like the sewer levels or like the earlier levels, like all that texture and like the brickwork and like the pipes and all that stuff, like it's so detailed. And then when you look at the Technodrome level, like it definitely has that like mechanical feel to it with like the wall panel texture and stuff, but it just feels so blank. Like it just feels so empty. There's like a ceiling and like a floor and then like a couple like panel texture. But when you look at the under like the sewer levels, there's like tons of brick, and all the brick has texture, and there's like all these like beat up pipes and stuff. It just feels like towards the end of the game, it just gets more and more simple. I think that there could have still been a lot of like metallic shine to the back walls and stuff. But so to me, as the game progressed, it was a little disappointing visually, but I think they made up for it with like the barrage of enemies where you just like you may not even really get a chance to notice the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it was either due to the limitations of the hardware, like completely, that they just overused all their assets in the very first 3 levels and then just ran out of space to actually make it look more interesting in the cave part of stage 4, and then especially in the second part of the Technodrome where you're literally just inside a vent, which is completely dark, or that it is because they throw so many enemies at you during those parts that they just were not able to actually put in more sprites for the backgrounds and things like that. Because like we said before, this is a very early Game Boy game, so they didn't really understand the system quite yet, even though it's pretty impressive overall for such an early game. But maybe that explains a little bit why these final few levels are, well, a little bit more flat and standard than you would expect if you've played the other stages.
Yeah, that is true. Like with the increase of enemies, we did see like the previous level had a pretty big increase in enemies, and then this one as well. So maybe that is probably a pretty good guess as to why the levels are a little more simple looking, even like less platforming, less moving around.
Yeah, what they did do though, once you've made it through the normal part of the Technodrome, and I think the vent, I have no idea what it's supposed to be. I think it's just a vent you go through. You do get to the final part of the game, which is the boss fight against technically Super Krang. That's what he is called when he's in his robot.
I could
suit,
never remember that big robot suit. Like I love that robot suit. I remember having the action figure for it, but I couldn't remember what it was called.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's just Super Krang. And Krang is, of course, just the brain thingy. I forgot what race he is. But yeah, the brain thingy, that's more than enough for everybody to remember him.
Isn't he isn't Krang like some interdimensional alien or something like that? Like he's from another dimension and he's not of like this planet?
He is from Dimension X and then from a particular planet, but I can't remember the race. I think in the game in the game or in the cartoons they explain it that he actually was like a real person or a humanoid, and that his evil brain got separated from his body after he got locked up or something. But in like later iterations, that's how they look like. That's how that alien race looks like. They're just all brains, I guess. So it's a weird creature, but yeah, everybody loves him, and his voice, especially in the cartoon, is just it's just amazing. Everybody loves that voice.
Yeah,
but
and it's like such an odd placement, like having him in the stomach of this giant, like weird looking shirtless, like wrestler style robot. Like he looks like a straight up like a wrestler. He's got little red boots and like the little wrestler underpants, and other than that, he's like he's not really wearing a whole lot.
It's true, yeah. I don't know if the cartoon made that suit or that it actually was in the comics or not, but I'm gonna assume it's just for the cartoon, probably.
Yeah, he may have. Yeah, we could probably always look that up at some point, but I would guess he probably was made strictly for the cartoon, then was just kind of brought into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, if you look at the final room, I guess, of the game, that one is definitely very impressive when it comes to the background, because you're actually in the control room of the Technodrome with like the big screen behind you, which is actually also a dimensional portal, basically. Plus the boss sprite of Krang is also very impressive and very huge, which it's supposed to be, of course. But yeah, you can see there they put a lot of effort again into it, and that's why I think maybe the sprite limitation in the other stages might have been an issue to not go into full detail on the stage design itself.
That's fair. I mean, but like this, in the Technodrome, it's like what we described. Was it stage 4, where it's like the foreground is very well textured, but like the background is just a plain white background. But yeah, once you get to Krang, it's this like super detailed room, and like right in the middle of the background there's like this like moving portal. Like it's actually like moving in the background, like flickering and flashing. And then Super Krang is super detailed. Like even Krang inside the belly has shading over the top of it, where like Krang is actually inside of the robot. Like it's not just a general outline. Like there is exceptional amount of detail to Super Krang.
Yeah, and when you And when you deal damage to him, his eyes get all big and his mouth pops open. And same thing with like the robot, like the robot registers damage like facially. And Krang's eyes it's get like so big. It's pretty funny, but he is huge. Like, cause we mentioned earlier that the turtles have these really, really high jumps. It seems like ridiculous how high they jump. And, like the turtle can barely jump over Super Krang. That's like how tall the sprite is. It's like over double like the size of the turtle.
Super Krang is like is twice the size of you. Like it takes 2 turtles to basically be the top of Krang. And Krang also has its own unique boss music. Again, another telling tale of this is the end all be all fight, because typically games back then was here's a boss fight, here's a boss theme, but then like you hit like a major boss or like the final boss, and it's a brand new theme right then and there.
As visually impressive as the stage design and Krang or Super Krang is, sadly it's also one of the easiest boss fights in the entire game. So that's kind of a letdown that you come all this way just to face off against one of the easiest opponents you had throughout the game.
I feel like it makes
Shredder
sense
is
though.
A lot harder.
I can't imagine Krang being like if Shredder. If you can beat Shredder, I can't imagine Krang being like more difficult than Shredder in the actual world. But obviously Krang is, he's very deceptive, and he's kind of got Shredder in his palm, so it makes sense that he would be the final boss. But to me, it as a game wise, it is a letdown when the final boss is pretty easy. But realistically, like lore wise, I feel like it made sense.
I'm
why
also glad
Krang was just kind of like a freebie.
At least simple, for the fact that like they didn't give Super Krang like these magical superpowers that we've never seen before, whether it was in the comic or the cartoon or anything of the fact. It was just like, hey, like here's Super Krang, which is already kind of weird to see in a Turtles game, because this is the only Turtles game that I can think of off the top of my head that has Super Krang in it. Maybe the arcade version does, and I haven't played the arcade version in a long time. But
Turtles in Time definitely has 2 Krang fights in it. One during the auto-scroller stage where you're fighting against the flying form of a Super Krang robot, and then just Krang himself in some kind of UFO thing that lays mouse or eggs or something like that. But I don't think, besides Back from the Sewers, which is the second game on Game Boy, I don't think there's another game on NES or the other arcade games where Krang actually shows up, if I remember correctly.
Is Turtles in Time the NES game?
That's a Super Nintendo one, which was originally an arcade game, of course. But
I don't think I've ever played Turtles in Time.
Oh, and while you guys were chatting, I looked up Krang's first appearance was actually in the comics, not in the animated series, way back in 1988.
Wow. But another thing too, thinking about Super Krang and his attire, like his robot attire, you gotta think back of like the late 80s and early 90s was like really popular wrestling time as well too. Like Hulk Hogan was very popular, and Hulk Hogan wore red and gold. So
true, and he was bald except for the back part.
Yeah.
Yep.
It'd be funny to see how many times Hulk Hogan inspired characters have appeared in games, because I know in like the Persona series there is definitely like a Hulk Hogan inspired character who is a wrestler and has like the hair just like Hulk Hogan and everything, but I think he even has like the mustache too. But,
yeah, funny that comes up. Actually, I was earlier today I was watching what's it called, Final Fight, the game, which has the boss enemy, or later a normal enemy called Andore or Andore Jr., which is literally based on Andre the Giant, which was one of Hulk Hogan's main rivals back in that day. So, they do have a lot of game characters inspired by wrestlers throughout history, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Another little interesting tidbit that I kind of gleaned from this is that Krang was created by someone named David Wise, and I was like, wait a minute, what? David Wise, like everyone knows David Wise from as the composer of like Donkey Kong Country and all that stuff, and I was like, what? It's just David Wise is just an American animator and writer, so he just like created Krang. I was like, it gave me like a little bit of a double take there, but.
How old was the composer back then? I don't think he would have come up with Krang back then.
Yeah, he would probably just was watching the cartoon.
Yeah. But yeah, that basically wraps up this entire game. Like, you finally defeat Krang. I'm not sure if it's in this one or in the second one that he actually, like, flies into the portal. Might be both, actually.
Well, when you beat him, he kind of just, like, disintegrates from the bottom to the top, or top to bottom, I can't remember. But like the next cutscene is a turtle untying April. So.
Oh, okay. No, then I'm thinking of the second game. I just recently played through both of them, and both have Krang as the final boss. So,
spoilers.
Spoilers for the next, well, not the next episode, but the future episode. But yeah, indeed, like after you beat Krang, well, there's two outcomes actually to this game. Either you just save April and then you go to the game over screen with your score in it, or you actually get the quote unquote good ending. And in my opinion, this is like the best part of this entire game. And I'm not sure what it depends on, but what I remember from when I was a kid, I think it's tied to the amount of points you have by the end of the game, which ending actually plays. So if you play through the entire game, start to finish, like stage 1 through stage 5, you're definitely gonna have more than enough points and you will always get the good ending. Otherwise, if you just select stage 5, you're gonna get the quote-unquote bad ending. And I think it's around 20,000 points that you need to actually get that good ending. And the good ending is actually just an epilogue, which is a scrolling text, and then it goes into an actual credits section. But what makes this part so amazing is, for me at least, it has one of the best compositions ever made for a Game Boy, and especially for a game this early. I think it's amazingly impressive how they did that song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it says here that to get the best ending, you have to start from stage 1, and so you can't like select stage 2 or 3. Like it says you have to start from stage 1 to get the full ending. That's
what I always thought first as well, but I do remember as a kid like starting from stage 3 or something and still getting that ending. So I think it's tied to the points. And if anybody can check that out, because yeah, there are people maybe listening that know how to do tasks or something like that, or get into the code of the game, and just check out what the trigger for that is. Maybe we'll finally know. I might be wrong. I might be remembering it wrong from my childhood, but I think it's tied to points as far as I can figure.
That makes sense.
The epilogue has one of like the best lines ever. It's like, what happened to Shredder and Krang? Churned to toast? Vaporized to milkshake? What? All right. Apparently they got vaporized to a milkshake.
Milkshakes. Shredder milkshake.
I love me some Krang flavored milkshake.
He does look like he might be like very strawberry and delicious.
But also a cool thing, I don't know if this happens in a game over when you lose all your turtles, but when you beat the game, you go through the epilogue, you go through the staff roll, and at the end, it shows the 4 turtles, and then it flips over and it says "The End" with Krang underneath the words "The End." and he just does this really just kind of terrifying smile, kind of haunts your dreams. Then a question mark appears. It's like, oh, when's Turtles 2 coming out?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Turtles were so hot. Like, I mean, look at how Turtles are still popular now, like in some iteration. And it was the 80s that this thing started. That's 30 years. I mean, and kids are still buying Turtles. New generations are like, picking their favorite turtle that they're going to be talking about when they're older. And it's crazy. They knew it too back then. They knew how popular they were and that they could sell any toy or any game. And thankfully, this game was pretty good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, definitely.
For a first go at a Turtles game on a Game Boy, not bad. Not a bad start.
Yeah. Maybe there's some hidden mini games in this episode.
Find out what time Belthic woke up for this episode. Moving on, just real quick. Cover art. So the cover art for this super reminds me of the comic cover a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pretty. It's colorful, but it's grungy at the same time. Like it has that 90s feel to it for sure.
Yeah.
Looks like in the American version, it says Ultra at the top. Then the Turtles logo, Follow the Foot Clan, and kind of a basic green and light green font. But the background looks like they're in the sewer of a sort. Back to back to back to back.
Yeah, or like an alley or something like that. But yeah, definitely some place not pleasant.
Yeah, and they're surrounded by the Foot Clan. If you look, who's that? Is that a Foot Clan member way in the back with that battle axe?
Yeah,
yeah, it is
weird.
Yeah.
So there's a lot.
When it seems like actually, it looks like Leonardo is facing Shredder. If you look at the very bottom of the screen,
yeah.
The head is a little bit different, and it kind of has that Shredder helmet. Like maybe the Turtles are facing Shredder, and they're surrounded. Like maybe he's giving them his demands, or he's monologuing at the Turtles. So he has them trapped.
Yeah, I didn't even notice the helmet. Yeah. But like the American version, again, this is really weird to say, is the better of the two versions in my opinion, because like there is so much detail to it. Like they're in a setting, like they're, whether it's in a sewer or an alley or whatever, like they're in a setting. Like you're actually like looking at basically a Turtles comic cover. But then we jump into the Japanese version, and this one says Konami on it, which is already weird. And then it has the Turtles logo, but the four turtles are blown up in size now.
Yeah, same drawing of the Turtles, and then there's kind of still, you can tell that they're surrounded by Foot Clan, because you can see their hands with their weapons, but there's no longer like a background of any sorts, which it seems like pretty common with a lot of Japanese box arts. They're tend to be a lot more simple, but a lot better drawn. And the American style of box arts tend to be kind of cringy sometimes, and so it's kind of odd that the Turtles aren't redrawn. They are the same exact drawing, just bigger and without the background. So usually you would see something that's maybe a little bit more like in it, like a Japanese like anime style, or if you look at like Kirby or something, he's rendered differently than on the American cover. It has a lot more like realistic-ish shading, whereas like on Japanese covers it's usually a lot more flat color, but a lot bright and like silly and fun. So it's kind of surprising to see that the Japanese box art had the same drawing, just no background.
Yeah, they basically just took the foreground of the American cover. I don't know which one came first. And they just blew it up. Like that's all they did. Like they removed all of the background and just took all of the foreground sprites, essentially the Turtles, the Foot Clan, Shredder, and just blew them up to the point where like you can't see any of the Foot Clan, you can't see Shredder at all anymore. You can only see their hands and their weapons a little bit, but the whole focus is on the turtles.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's a bad cover. I just feel like compared to the American cover, I feel like seeing that foreground, the color, the texture, of the ground, and then seeing them actually surrounded by the dopey looking foot soldiers is just a little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's not a terrible cover, but it's definitely one of those covers where I don't say it often, but the American version is better. Like, I typically lean towards the Japanese covers a lot, but in this case here, I very much prefer the American cover.
Tailgater is another one where I prefer the American cover, actually, to the Japanese one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was looking up if I could see who actually made the cover art for this game, because last episode we actually found out who created the cover art, which was something very rare to find. But yeah, for this one I can't find it either. But yeah, if I have to, I think the game came out in Japan first, but I do have a feeling that the cover art is definitely made by an American artist. Maybe who has worked on the comics in the past or something like that, because the style is totally not Japanese at all. So I think, maybe they created the cover for the American version or the European version first and then just simplified it for a Japanese release. But yeah, the actual art style itself is really far gone from anything Japanese during that period. So
I'm actually seeing some like fan-made covers that are taller, and it is actually Shredder at the bottom, and there's more image. It's much more of a vertical image. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this came from some type of comic art, or if it was like made as like a marketing piece that was vertical, and then they just turned it into the cover or something like that. So, but yeah, it's kind of odd too that the cover does have that comic style, but then the game inside very much has the animated series style to like the look of the turtles and the cutscenes and stuff like that.
Well, it's the same with the NES version, where they totally based it on the cover, at least on the comics, and the game itself was more based upon the cartoon. So
general reception of the game, pretty good. I mean, most people, from what I read, enjoyed the game now and then. So most people accepted its simplicity and goofy looking turtles, as it's a first Game Boy Turtles game. It doesn't crash. It's enjoyable to play. It has a killer OST. Welcome back, everybody. So, history. We'll start with Manovermars, because he's our guest. What is your history with this game?
So the very first time I played through it and beat this game, it was for a charity marathon and called Drunk Games Done Slowly. So I was pretty drunk, and I had a lot of fun. I had played the game before, like maybe the first level or something, so I knew the game was that it was slow paced and everything, and that it was kind of derpy, and but I didn't have like a very high opinion of the game. I'm not sure why I picked it to play, because we had like a 2-hour block that you had to fill. So if you beat 3 games in it, then that's fine. If you beat 1 game, that's fine. If you don't beat any games, that's fine. It's just being on. It was like a full weekend marathon raising money for different charities, and you could, they encouraged, well, they didn't like make you drink. It was just so you didn't have to drink, but I did, and I had a lot of fun. I played through it, and I beat it. Finally beat it. I appeared on that. They did a charity every month, and for like a couple months, I was involved, and I beat this game for the first time. I beat like Mega Man 2 for the first time. Like Ninja Gaiden Shadow. I only primarily played Game Boy. I was one of the few people that played Game Boy. It was like a retro.
Like usual.
It was like a retro marathon thing. So yeah, they eventually opened it up for like bigger, like newer games. But I always still just pretty much played Game Boy for the most part. And a lot of people were like, "Wow, I didn't know that this existed," or like, like, "Wow, this game's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to try it out." So it was neat to see. And this was one of them where people were like really excited to see, oh, Ninja Turtles is so cool. Wow, this game looks so silly. And like, I feel like this game is more impressive to play than to watch, but it was fun. I was very proud of myself to have beaten it while so intoxicated. So
great.
Yeah.
What about you, Mo?
Yeah, I think I've like mentioned it before, but I had this game ever since I was a kid, so it's probably one of the first 5 games or something I bought for a Game Boy that I actually like picked myself, of course, because yeah, of course I love the Turtles. They were on TV constantly, and they were a big part of everybody's life back then. The weird thing though is I am pretty sure, I actually should check my my copy of the game, but that I had a copy which said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on it, and not Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, like the European version is called.
Okay.
And I'm still not sure, like, I don't remember the cartoon being Hero Turtles either here. I really always remembered this as the Ninja Turtles. Like, nobody ever said Hero Turtles. So I think that might be only a thing that happened in Germany, because the reason why all these things like ninja and guns in cartoons and stuff like that got censored here was because of Germany. They had all the say in that, but I don't remember it ever being called Hero Turtles, at least. So for me, it always has been the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, because I know like nunchucks were like banned too, right? And Michelangelo had a grappling hook. That was like they replaced it. Yeah.
Yeah, see, that I don't remember either. Like, it's so crazy. Like, so I don't know where that stems from. Maybe I'm just remembering it wrong, but yeah, for me it was always the Ninja Turtles. But yeah, even back then I just really, really loved the soundtrack of this game. Like, it was this and Kirby's Dream Land, and I kept humming those songs over and over again all through the day. And yeah, that shows how well done this music actually is. If even, how old was I when this came? Well, it was 1990, but I guess I got it like when I was 5 or 6 or something. Yeah, that it's stuck to me from then till this day, how these songs actually go. And yeah, that's just marks an amazing soundtrack. So I still love this.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, Michiru Yamane she's amazing.
Yeah, I had this game as a kid. This was my first Turtles game because I didn't get the NES Turtles until after this, and see, I had a very different experience with Game Boy where my parents absolutely refused to listen to anything coming from the Game Boy, like music or anything. So like 98% of my Game Boy playing as a kid was basically on mute. Like I always played the Game Boy without sound.
They're like, damn it, turn that sound off.
Basically, yeah, they're like,
you're offending me.
They're like,
this. We're trying to listen to Terminator 2 here.
Yeah, they're just like, can you turn that down? Can you turn that off? You know, and like I mean, like headphones back then. I mean, they didn't have there were no earbuds. It was you had like these giant studio cups, basically. You know, so it's like okay, you know, it's like I played a lot of Game Boy without sound. Like I played a lot of good games with a great OST. Balloon Kid, Turtles, Kirby. I played so many games with good music without sound and wouldn't know about the music until I was an adult. So playing the game, I beat it as a kid. Even too, it's a pretty easy game, but I beat it a crap load of times. It was Turtles. Like when Turtles was on Saturday morning cartoons, like you bet your ass I had my Game Boy by me, and I'd play Turtles during the commercials, or we got a road trip. Like, oh, we're going to the store. Okay, well, it's a 20-minute car ride. I can play the game. I can maybe beat it by the time I get to the store.
Yeah.
Like I did a lot of that as a kid. And Turtles was always one of the go-tos that I played, just because it was just so easy to get in and hop into, because you can choose what level you play from.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. I look back at it now. It's like the only reason I liked it as a kid because it said Turtles. Like if it was any other game, I probably would have hated it.
Yeah.
Because just how kind of derpy it was. But I mean, now as an adult, like actually criticizing the game, it's actually a very well done game. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys are lucky having Game Boys. I didn't have a Game Boy as a kid. I asked for one for Christmas. And I remember like standing at the top of the stairs, and my parents would like wrap presents. You could listen to them. They would think we were asleep. And me and my brothers and my sister would stand there and like try to glean some information for what was coming up for Christmas. And I remember I'd ask for a Game Boy, and then my dad liked games, and he would always open the stuff and play it. Like one time we got a Sega Genesis, and the box was all distorted, and I was like, what's going on? And he had put the console away with the cartridge still in it, and the cables were attached to the back of the TV so that we could just open it and then just immediately start playing it. But so he tried out the Game Boy, and I heard the Game Boy come on, and because my friends all had Game Boys, so I knew what the startup bias sounded like, and I was like, yeah, all right, I'm going to bed. I know that getting a Game Boy, that's all I wanted. And then Christmas rolls around, and they would always save like the big present for the end, and I was opened a Game Gear, and I was like, what is this? And my dad's like, oh, it's so cool. It's like in color. We bought 2 Game Boys, one for you and your brother. And I tried it out. It was black and white, and it was like hard to see, and wasn't in color. So we took them back and got a Game Gear, and I was like, oh man. It's because I had like Sonic and like Spider-Man Return of the Sinister Six and a few other games that were not very good, X-Men, and I was like, I would have had Turtles if I probably would have had this game if I had a Game Boy, but sadly I had the Game Gear.
Yeah, I think the only reason I had a Game Boy was it was a cheaper option than the Game Gear, and I grew up in a military family, so we were always on the road from when I was a kid. So it was just, here's your Game Boy. Like, this is what you're gonna be playing basically for until you're 13 or whatever, whatever it was when we stopped moving around. It's just like, okay. So like I literally like lived on my Game Boy. Like I didn't have a ton of games for it, mind you, but the games I had were good enough to keep my interest as a kid the entire time. But I think that's the only reason I had a Game Boy. Like if I was one of those, if I was in a family where we didn't move at all, and like we were just stationary, like here's where we're living for the rest of our life, basically, I probably wouldn't have had a Game Boy at all, to be honest. At least not right away. I probably wouldn't have gotten a Game Boy until like Pokemon came out or something, like way, way, way later in the Game Boy life.
Yeah, seeing Game Gear ruined handheld gaming for me. I didn't play any more handheld games. I didn't have Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, DS, until the 3DS is when I finally started playing handheld games again. Because I was like, well, handheld games must just be like really bad versions of console games.
Right.
So why don't I just play console, put my money towards consoles. And that's when I was like, whoa, okay, 3DS is awesome. Let me take a look back at some of these other games. And Game Boy was one of the first consoles that I went back to and was just like, all right, let me try some stuff out, and just fell in love with the console.
Yeah.
Which only fueled my dislike for Game Gear even more. It's It's like, damn you, Game Gear, you robbed me of so many years of gaming.
I can go on a long tangent about how I don't like Sega, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll do a separate episode on why we don't like Sega.
But small speedrunning section. So this game is kind of fairly popular.
Yeah, mainly because like it was in Tiny 10, so a lot of people played through it back then. But also just because it's one of the easiest games to learn, basically. Like, even if you're just playing it blind, it will take you, 25 minutes maximum? If you play it 3 times in a row, you probably can submit your run for the leaderboard. So, yeah. Definitely would recommend doing that. But yeah, the entire speedrun is pretty simple on its own because there's no like special tricks to it or anything. It's usually just dependent on lag reduction by either killing certain enemies or by ignoring enemies or even despawning enemies. Like there's a few screens where you can like jump up and the screen scrolls upwards with you and then the bottom enemies disappear. So everything you can do to just reduce the lag in this game helps. Besides that, like I mentioned, you can do the jump kick to do double damage to bosses, so that makes the fights a little shorter. And yeah, that's basically the entire speed run. So
yeah. So if you've been thinking about speedrunning, it's like they said, it's a pretty good one to get into, and it's pretty short, not too many insane tricks, and it's Turtles. You get to listen to that soundtrack as you do your resets over and over.
Yeah. And now that I was looking things up, and now I can tie into one of the mini games from earlier. Apparently, there's an 90% category and a 100% category. I did not know the latter existed. I think they just added that, but it was recorded earlier because I didn't see it before. But the 100% category apparently just is do all the bonus games as well, at least the ones they found so far. So I'm gonna check this out after this episode to see if I actually did find them all or not. But I was just skipping through it real quickly to see if it did include these bonus games, and I'm on the Splinter one where you have to guess the number. And I can already see they programmed this completely wrong. So the first number he types into is 500, and Splinter answers bigger. So the second number he enters is 200, and then he says smaller. So it's opposite of what he's supposed to be saying. So the eventual number is 430 and 73. So yeah, it's just wrong. So if he says bigger, it's actually a smaller number and vice versa. That's why I never could figure this game out. Oh, that's so dumb.
So yeah, with that, we have some community events related to Game Boy coming up. We have Power Up with Pride on June 12th to June 14th. We have one Game Boy game in there.
Nice. Which game?
Link's Awakening, of course.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
It seems like the OG Game Boy game. That game has been getting into a lot of marathons lately. Legs' Dragonheart did not get in, unfortunately, and my Yearwalk did not get in. They apparently don't want a horror block. So, on top of that, we have ESA Summer Online, July 24th to August 2nd. Not sure about submissions on that. You can check that at esamarathon.com. And ESA Summer, which is rescheduled to October 2nd to October 11th, which y'all know that's in Sweden. So. And also we have Summer Games Done Quick. Their game list their game submissions just closed. Their game list will probably be coming out in the next, month-ish or so. and they're set to be going in, I think, either August or September for their rescheduled event. Outside of that, there's probably 100 other tiny marathons I'm not knowing about or have completely forgot about, because it is marathon season, and with the coronavirus being a thing, online marathons are seemingly increasing for corona relief and St. Jude stuff. So
Yeah, makes sense. It's the big thing on everyone's mind, and it's also affecting a lot of the events themselves, so it's kind of hard to get away from it.
yeah, I saw a Calithon tweet that they're planning on doing something as well. So I'm curious what Calithon has planned. I know RPG Limit Break is usually in May or June. I haven't kept up with them, so I don't know exactly if they've rescheduled or if they are going completely online or not. So
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye out.
And with that, would you have any questions in the Discord?
Yeah, I'm actually looking over them. I think there's a few. So we have Fariel asking, is there actually any difference between all the turtles in the game besides the visuals? No. Well, like we answered that throughout the
And the only visual difference is their weapon.
Yeah.
So.
No, besides that, they're literally all the same.
Yeah.
No reach differences or speed differences or anything like that.
Yeah, all the attack animations are the same. Everything.
Yeah. Well, passing on to the next one, Toucan Sam asks, which turtle would taste best in a soup?
I don't know. I would be kind of worried to eat Michelangelo. So I would think maybe Leonardo. He probably takes the best care of himself. And
I would say Donatello or Leonardo, because, yeah, they take the best care of themselves and they move the most because they have, bigger weapons.
I don't know, that testosterone that Raph has I don't know how that would might season him up pretty good.
Yeah, Michelangelo would be too many calories probably, give you a lot of cholesterol issues. And I think Raphael is just too sour to put in soup.
Too sour, yeah.
Unless you like sweet and sour soup.
True, yeah. But then you need a lot of sweet to get rid of that sourdough. So yeah, I'm not sure. Then again, yeah, no, it would not be Raph because he uses size, and you can't eat soup with a size. So no.
Yeah, I think all of the weapons would be hard to.
But yeah, that's that one. I'm looking if. Well, Manovermars here himself asked, do all the weapons have the same reach? You answered that yourself, so great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, as we were getting ready for the episode, I think. I don't think I thought it was maybe like not questions that were being asked like on during the episode. I think it was just like, I was just prepping.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I figured they didn't, but.
Well, we can skip that one as well now. So, and then I asked one to everybody, but not a lot of people answered. But which is people's favorite Turtles cartoon and movie?
The 80s cartoon and the very first Turtles movie. The one that's like super dark, kind of like gothy, more violent, like less funny.
The one where Raph like gets beat up and
yeah,
that's the first one.
Yeah, the second one got a little. The second one was I really watched a lot as a kid.
Yeah,
I think it was a little more like fun and like ridiculous. That was the one that had Vanilla Ice, right?
Yeah.
And then like it was just a little more silly. But as a kid, I really, really did like the first one when April did the drawings of the Turtles. It was one of those things that as a kid made me want to be an artist. I had a few things throughout my childhood that like kind of really pushed me to explore being an artist. So I'm really happy that like her drawings, it was such a neat way that they added it into the movies. And in most movies, the way artists are depicted is pretty terrible. It's not very accurate. And so hers, it felt like it could have worked out. And then the fact that they find the drawing on what was his name, Billy or the kid, and then like it was just like neat that it wasn't just like a stupid little side thing. It ended up having like some meaning. So that was something that meant a lot to me from that movie.
Yeah, I think for most people the second one will be in their minds because it was more made towards kids. It was more silly and things like that. The first one is actually a pretty dark movie, which actually follows the comics a lot. Well, it doesn't follow the story of the comics, but the comics are also very dark, actually. So I think for us growing up with those movies, the second one had more of an impact generally, but it is not as good a movie as the first one at all.
Yeah.
I think the first one too, one thing that was really neat was like the foot soldiers and how it was like they showed it as like a brotherhood and how like they kind of sucked kids in, and the kids kind of felt like it was a family, but then like, you know, the higher ups were obviously like using the kids, and so it was kind of neat to see them take that kind of seriously and show like how it would be easy for these kids to fall into this trap of, you know, joining this gang. And so I thought that was pretty cool. Like they promised them like all these kids walking around smoking and like, you know, playing arcade games and skateboarding and just doing whatever they wanted, and that's what a lot of kids would want. And then, but obviously like as they got higher up, you know, they weren't little boys anymore, and they were you know, they were being trained to be pretty nasty. So it was I thought that was really cool. There was a lot of really, like, for a Turtles movie, you know, with these giant turtles, you wouldn't think they would have taken it very seriously, and I thought the writing for the movie was done really well.
Yeah, I think going back to the second one, I think it was such a big impact. It was catered towards children, but it had a lot of pop culture references in it. Like it had Vanilla Ice in it, and at the time, Vanilla Ice was popular, right? It just had a lot of references to what was going on in the world versus like the first one, which was based out of Manhattan, I think it was, and unless you lived in Manhattan, there was really nothing to really connect to at all. Or if you lived in a bigger city, there was nothing to really connect to. And then the third one, like that movie just doesn't even exist. So
yeah. Well, and you could see with the second one too, they introduced what was his name, Kino, like the pizza kid, the pizza delivery kid.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like it kind of allowed you to imagine your interaction with the turtles, because in the first one you didn't see like anyone other than like April or Casey Jones interact with the turtles, and Kino was kind of like this, you know, this punk kid that like, you know, he had some skills too, but and then there was Super Shredder and Tokar and Razor. So even like the way the second movie starts out with, I think that's where there's like a robbery and like Donatello pretends to be that pushing thing, like the, you know, like those like inflatable things you can punch and they fall over, and like, there's just like so much more silly stuff in the movie. But yeah, it was a good movie. Both of them were really good, but I think I prefer the more dark, serious like first one as well.
Same.
Yeah,
I was always disappointed as a kid that there was never Krang or Rocksteady or Bebop in those movies, but
yeah, the newer ones have Rocksteady and Bebop, I think.
Yeah, but it's not as they're just not as
it would have
great.
Been,
like
it would have been interesting to see how they would have been done, because like Tokar and Razor were pretty cool, and to see like how they would have handled Rocksteady and Bebop. It would have been kind of neat instead of Tokar and Razor if it was Rocksteady and Bebop.
I agree. I think it would have been better, honestly, if it was Rocksteady and Bebop.
Yeah.
Because even in the cartoons, they were kind of silly. So
yeah, but they used the animals in like instead of like Rocksteady and Bebop would have been humans that they turned into the animals. In the Tokar and Razor, they used like the little puppy and snapping turtle. They're babies. Like, I can't get that out of my head. Like, Shredder like screaming like.
Yeah, it's still a fun movie to watch. Either way. You know, so yeah, a lot of people are saying it's not a great movie, but it's fun. It's fun. You should definitely watch it. Besides that, like there are two very good cartoon movies as well, though. Like you have the one where the 2003 Turtles meet the 80s, 90s Turtles, which is really good. And a few years ago, or maybe only 2 years ago, kind of hard to keep track of the time lately, there has been the Batman versus Turtles animated movie, and that one was really great as well. So if you haven't heard of those, you can always go check those out. I really like them.
I haven't seen those. I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, they're really, really well done. So.
And Batman lost because it's 4-1.
I'm not gonna spoil the movie, but you can definitely guess what's gonna happen eventually. So, but yeah, that's about all the questions we had. We just had Lex, who said that she liked the third movie, actually, which I replied to no. You're not allowed to do that.
No legs.
And she also said, I miss the girl turtle.
Yeah,
For those of you who don't know
Venus.
the girl turtle, yeah, Venus. It was from the live action show on TV and from their tour, their music. Don't ask. Pretend it doesn't exist, but...
Their musical tour.
yeah, pretend it doesn't exist. It wasn't great or anything like that, but...
Nope.
they had the costumes like from the third movie. I think it's not even the ones from the first two movies. The costumes from the first two movies were really well done. The third one, sadly not, and they used those for the music tour and the live action TV show. And yeah, then they came up with Venus, which was a girl turtle with boobs, and it was awkward.
It was weird.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all the questions we have.
Cool.
Sick. All right. So yeah, let's dive into this outro, I guess. So if you have any other thoughts, suggestions, feedback, we love to hear from y'all. We have the Discord where most people talk now. Getting a little busier lately, but still pretty quiet. Obviously, you can DM us or tweet at us or visit us on Twitch and yell at us there. Tell us how great we're doing. Outside of that, Manovermars, where can they find you and what projects are you working on right now?
Well, I can be found most mornings now, PST, so Pacific Time Zone, streaming on Twitch, working on a lot of art. I do a lot of art commissions for a lot of other streamers, some in the retro community, some in other communities. Keeps me pretty busy, but then I usually play games. Still playing some Game Boy. I have it set up every Monday morning. I play Game Boy, so right now playing some Pokemon Red for the first time. So I'm so behind on so many games. So.
I apologize.
I've been enjoying it. It's not too bad. Being there with chat makes it a lot more enjoyable. So if you guys want to stop in and say hi, that's great.
All right, Mo, where can they find you?
As per usual, you can find me only on three things, which are YouTube, Twitch, and... wait, what's the third one? Twitter. There we go. There we go. I only have three things, and I can't even remember those. But yeah, that's all /Moelle, which is MOELLEUH. I don't have anything else, and I don't think I'll have anything else in the future, so no TikTok or Instagram or anything like that.
Yeah, you can find SprintingLegs. We'll start with her first at SprintingLegs on Twitch, Legs on YouTube, Legs in the Discord, and SprintingLegs.com. She has a pretty awesome website, and there's a surprise coming to that website here shortly. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah, it's real cool. And then you can find me, Belthic Gaming, on Twitch, Twitter. I have a YouTube. I don't have enough subscribers to have a custom URL, but just go there anyway. There's all my Game Boy stuff. Most of my Game Boy stuff, not all of it. Belthic Gaming on Instagram, TikTok. Belthic on TikTok, not Belthic Gaming. I think that's about all I have going on. But yeah, mainly Twitch. Right now I'm playing a lot of WoW, so... because I needed a break after Final Fantasy VII. Inside of that, Patreon stuff. We have a Patreon, so if you are feeling generous and want to subscribe to our Patreon, saying that we're doing a fantastic job, you can be a patron and have a little special tag in Discord, see some behind-the-scenes channels, see some notes that are, I think, now up to date.
Yeah, I actually just updated all of them, so... some of them are not missing, but we just don't have any for those. It's for our earlier lights. Like when I started doing those lights in the beginning, I just winged it. Really, I never made any notes. So, which got harder when time went on. So yeah, those are not there. But if they're not there, it really means they don't exist. So
yes. And then at $20 a month, month, we'll start live streaming our podcast. So that means I have to shower in the morning for you guys. So the video will not be of me showering, however. So that will be part of the OnlyFans.
Yeah. Right there, I was gonna say, you gotta save that content.
We also have a PayPal. PayPal and Discord clearly don't integrate together, so if you do donate with PayPal, if you don't feel like the subscribing thing, let one of us know. We want to give you benefits in Discord and wherever else that we can to say thank you. So DM Mo, myself, or Legs will get you set up. Anything else I'm missing? I have no idea.
No, that's pretty much it. You can, of course, find links to everything on our website, which is gbrunners.com/TIGB. Yeah, that's right. So there's links to all of our socials and to all of our platforms where you can find the podcast on. And speaking of that, I have been working my ass off all week trying to actually make the videos for our YouTube channel. So the episodes will become available there as well, with a little background thingy and a game feed. So for people who want to have something on in the background, which is a little bit more animated than just listening to the podcast, they will be available, but I won't start uploading them until they're all done, which I think is gonna take another 2 weeks or something like that. It takes a lot of time to render those things. So yeah, you can look forward to that. I would say go to youtube.com/thisisgameboy, but of course we don't have that URL available as we don't have enough subscribers. So you can always already start subscribing until the videos become available. There's 2 on there right now, which is the live one we did for Nubo and the one for Spider-Man Part 2. Those are already available normally there.
Yeah, if you get to 100 subs, I think we could have a custom URL. So
unless they changed it again, because you never know. They
probably did, because it's YouTube. Bunch of clowns. We won't get into that tangent.
Yeah, no.
All right. Next game, Mo. Mo, it's your choice for the next game. Also, big shouts to Mo and Legs. This YouTube thing has been a huge undertaking on them. So there is gameplay footage of the stuff too, with Mo and I doing it. So
yeah,
that's cool to see as well.
It's something. It's just the rendering takes a long while. 45-minute episodes usually literally take 45 minutes to render, but I just did Mole Mania, which was a 2-hour episode, and it took over 3 hours to render, and there's a backlog of 50 videos, so it's gonna take a long while to actually catch up to that, but I'm glad we're finally doing it. Once we're caught up, it's just gonna be a thing I have to do.
I'm looking forward to it. So I'm looking forward to checking it out, seeing what you put together.
Yeah, speaking of which, of course, want to thank Manovermars for actually realizing our new logo. We didn't mention that before. Well, we mentioned it in another episode that you did it, of course, but we didn't mention it this episode that you actually also finalized our new logo. So yeah, you can always enjoy his artwork when you see our episodes coming up, for sure.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun one to do. I mean, I love doing any type of drawings for Game Boys and stuff like that. So, and the Tiny 10 and stuff. So it's been a lot of fun.
That is good to hear.
Sweet. Mo, what's our next game?
Well, I'm just gonna go with Jurassic Park Part 2, The Chaos Continues.
Keeping a reptile, huh? All right.
Nice.
Keeping it cold-blooded. No fancy outro? No nothing? Just Jurassic Park?
I don't really have a lot to say about Jurassic Park.
Yeah, save it for the
rawr. I don't know.
you gotta squish the poop.